Fine, just transfer the money. What? You should send the money to her account, she's going through a tough time. But you gave her most of your salary already, didn't you? I don't think that matters. You're so cold. My name is Kelly, I'm 32 years old, and I work at a tax accountant office in Tall. My husband, Luis, is 2 years younger than me, and we met at the bar where he works. We became friends at work, and after a year of dating, we got married. Luis had a very different childhood from mine. He grew up in an institution because his mom disappeared when he was young, and his grandmother passed away a year later. He lived in an institution from the age of 10. He doesn't like talking about his past, so I never ask. When we got married, my parents asked if I was okay with our different backgrounds. I told them I liked him, and it wasn't a problem, which was mostly true, but I wasn't completely sure. Luis is a quiet, caring, and gentle person. I thought we could support each other forever. Unfortunately, after 2 years of marriage, things started to change. It all began when my mother-in-law showed up. She appeared out of nowhere, and it was an emotional reunion. She and Luis cried together, but when I saw them crying, I didn't feel moved. Instead, I thought she was being selfish. I'm so sorry, it's been so long. I had financial problems and didn't want to drag you into them. I know, I've been trying to find you for a long time. I didn't know how to tell you I lost my house, but I'm glad we finally met. Luis seemed happy to see her, but I couldn't forget that she had left him at a very important time in his life. If she had been struggling with debt, how could she not care about him when she left? It didn't make sense to me. She was wearing blonde hair, short skirts, and revealing tops. She sounded like someone who drank a lot, but I told myself not to judge by appearances. Luis was happy, so I tried to be happy for them. It was nice seeing you. I hope we can meet again. I'm sure we will. Thanks, but I don't know if I can come again. Why? I don't have a place to stay. Luis looked at me. I shouldn't do this, but isn't it wrong to tell your son you don't have a place to live? If you really care about your children, you wouldn't burden them. I don't think a mother who disappeared should do this. His look said, let her stay here, please. Fine, I don't like it, but maybe I'm overthinking it. I should help her, I thought. I made eye contact with Luis, agreeing silently. Mom, you can live with us. Really? Thank you. Wow, that was fast. You really know how to act. It's suspicious. Thank you so much. We'll live together from now on. She moved in without any real apology. After she came, Luis tried his best to take care of her, even though it seemed painful. I didn't think she would be a problem. I thought Luis might be trying to do things he couldn't as a child. But after 2 weeks, the real her showed up. It happened when Luis went shopping, and I was working late. It was the first time we were alone. So, you're a tax accountant? She asked in a different tone. Yes. You must have a lot of money saved up. I really don't want to talk about this. You talk differently when Luis isn't here. He loves me, you know that. He wouldn't believe anything bad you say about me. By the way, you're making money, right? Can you lend me some? I don't want to. Come on, you should help me. It's only right that someone like you, who makes money, should lend some to people in need. That's how the world works. I've never heard that before. That's why kids today don't understand the world. Hurry up and give me the money. I'm not giving you money. From then on, whenever it was just the two of us, it was always the same conversation. I didn't want to tell Luis because I knew it would cause a fight, so I kept quiet, even though I could tell his mother was taking advantage of him. The first part was tough, but I tried to be patient. However, my patience only lasted for a month. Just when I was about to ask her to leave, she surprised me by saying she was moving out. This felt like a blessing I didn't even expect. Mom, are you really leaving? Yeah. I can't keep bothering you and Kelly. We're not those kinds of people. And you can't stay with us forever. Stop with the pearls. I'm happy about it, thanks. I found a new apartment. They said I don't even need a guarantor. I won't be a bother anymore. That's good. Let me show you. It's only 5 minutes away, so let's take a walk. Luis nervously followed his mom. After that, I started to lose trust in him. Since his mom showed up, my relationship with Luis had been neglected. He always put his mom's needs before mine, and he was pulling away from me. We walked to her new apartment and were shocked by how bad it was. It looked like a shady place, and I think it was even rumored to be haunted. Luis saw it and looked at his mom with tears in his eyes. Mom, please, come back to our home. It's fine, I'm living here now, just visit me if you can. The next day, his mom moved out of our house. But I knew this was all part of her plan. Louise had fallen right into her trap. Kelly, can you help my mom somehow? Why should I? You saw that apartment, don't you feel bad for her? That was just her trick. She's trying to get money from us. I'll never give her anything. Louise has no idea what kind of game she's playing. I'm not giving her any money. Why not? She's rented an apartment, so she must have money. She goes out, so she must be working. She's not working, she's volunteering at a nursing home during the day. Volunteering? That's a lie. I can't believe she's a volunteer. I won't believe it. What's your point? Nothing, I'm just not paying for it. Louise looked at me coldly. Kelly, you're fine as long as things are good for you, right? What do you mean? Kelly, you make more money than I do, and you think I should just listen to you. What are you talking about? When did I say that? It's in the way you act. Mom said it too. She said, Kelly is a little scary. I bet she left because of you. I felt like crying. What did he see in me before? You don't know anything, and now you're blaming me for everything. You don't even know your own mother. Do you know what I've been going through since your mother showed up? Have you ever thought about that? Don't try to make me feel guilty. After that huge argument, our relationship fell apart. We didn't speak for days. Then, a few days later, Louise called me. I answered to see what was going on. You're at work, right? Yeah. I'm really sorry, but I need you to visit my mom. Why? She hurt her leg and is having a hard time. She would really appreciate it if you went to see her, but I can't leave the store today because I have a vendor coming in. It would mean a lot if you could go. All right, I'll go after work, thanks. I sighed when I hung up. Even though things were difficult between us, Louis only called me when it was about his mom. I felt emptier and emptier. I pulled out the divorce papers and stared at them. I guess it's time to end this. After work, I went to the apartment. You're late. My mother-in-law's leg was bandaged. How are you feeling? Not well, that's why you're here. Hurry up and make me some tea. She sat on the sofa and started watching TV. I reluctantly went to the kitchen to make tea. Then I noticed a bank passbook in the cupboard. I glanced at my mother-in-law. She didn't notice. I quietly picked it up and checked the contents. Oh no, I couldn't stop myself from reacting. Shut up, I can't hear the TV. It took me a while to make the tea, but she kept complaining while watching TV. I looked around and saw she had nice teacups and dishes. I started to understand everything. Here's your tea, now I'm leaving. What are you talking about? Where's dinner? Why don't you cook it for yourself? You're the one who's paying for it. I don't think I should. You have plenty of money, don't you? She saw the passbook in my hand and quickly stood up. That's mine, don't you dare not give it back. She tried to reach for it, but there was no way she could reach me since I'm taller. I walked straight to the door, and she glared at me fiercely. Oh, I thought you broke your leg. You were limping just now. Just give it back to me. I left her apartment and went home. Louise greeted me. Thank you for going. My mom must have been in a lot of pain. No, she was fine. No, she couldn't have been. She must have been in pain. Did you give her the money? From the look on his face, he hadn't heard from his mom. What money? You didn't give me any money. No, don't you feel sad when you see your mom hurting? She needs money, and I thought you'd give it to her. So you think I should give her the money? Louise sighed. Fine, just transfer the money. What? You should send the money to her account. You know she's struggling. You gave her most of your salary, didn't you? I don't think that's necessary. You're so cold. I thought you'd understand after seeing your mom in pain. I've wasted so much time thinking about it. What have you been thinking about? Your mother's been pretending to be weak, because you're not nice at all. This is the only way she can get anything from us. I didn't know what else to say. I threw the passbook at Louise. Look at this. Do you still think she's poor? Wake up. What do you mean? Why does she have $70 million? She has money, but she keeps trying to get more from us. She left you alone when you needed her and then suddenly shows up asking to live with us and keeps asking for money, not just from you, but from me too. She asks me for money when you're not here. What makes you think this is the person you should protect? She's a hustler. If you still want to protect your mother, that's your choice, but I want a divorce. I'm done. You still don't believe me. You and your mom are the same. living in a shady house, trying to get money from me. You're just like her. I probably had more to say, but it didn't matter anymore. I couldn't understand why my husband believed his mother so much. He had waited for her for so long, but I couldn't tell him that he was being used and unloved. After that, Luis and I got divorced. I didn't get alimony. I couldn't take his money after his mother tricked him. I also didn't get any of the shared property. We agreed to keep our savings separate. A month later, Luis was waiting for me outside my office. I told him to just say what he needed. He told me something I couldn't believe. My mom got arrested for theft and fraud. She had been asking elderly people at the nursing home for their PIN numbers and passbooks. Their families reported her, and she's in jail now. She was arrested again for more crimes. Fortunately, the money she tried to get from Luis was safe. It was returned to the victims. Luis apologized and then disappeared from my life. It was sad to see him go. That was the end of my short marriage, but I was glad it was over. The darker side of Luis was too much for me. I hope I can find someone I can truly be with someday. I think I'm done with marriage for now. I'm more comfortable focusing on my career. I'm going to work harder and maybe open my own office someday. That's my new goal. Luis's mother was all about money, and the way Luis handled it was heartbreaking. Parents shape a child's character, don't they? Luis was truly a victim of his mother. I hope that both Kelly and Luis find happiness in the future. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel if you liked the video. See you in the next one.
The first thing I noticed when I opened my front door wasn't the overturned furniture or the scattered papers. It was the silence, that heavy, unnatural quiet that wraps around you like a burial shroud, whispering that something is terribly wrong. I'm Audrey, and I just spent 3 days at a corporate retreat, learning how to trust my colleagues through ridiculous team-building exercises. Now I'm standing in my ransacked living room, realizing I should have been more concerned about trusting my own family. My fingers trembled as I dialed Ryan's number. 1 ring, 2 rings, the familiar click of voicemail. Of course, my dear husband was probably at his mother's house, pretending not to know why his wife was calling. Ryan, someone broke into the house. The safe is open. Call me back immediately. I walked through the debris of my violated home, cataloging the damage. Photo frames face down, drawers pulled out and emptied, couch cushions slashed open. But they hadn't been looking for money or jewelry. No, this was personal. They went straight for what mattered most. My grandmother's letters, the only pieces I had left of her. My phone buzzed. Not Ryan. Evan from work. How was the drive back? He asked. Someone broke into my house. My voice cracked. The safe. They knew the combination, Evan. Jesus, are you okay? Do you need me to come over? No, I know exactly who did this. I kicked aside a torn magazine. Helen's fingerprints are all over this mess. She's been trying to get those letters for months. Your mother-in-law. Why would she? Because she can't stand that Ryan married someone who won't bow to her every whim. I reached the kitchen, where even the cabinets had been emptied. She thinks those letters prove my grandmother's family wronged hers decades ago. Some ancient real estate dispute she won't let die. Call the police, Evan said. And tell them what? That my mother-in-law used a key my husband probably gave her to steal family documents. That my sister-in-law probably helped because she's bitter about her divorce and wants to hurt someone else's marriage. I laughed, but it came out hollow. They're too smart for that. They'll say Ryan gave them permission. It'll be my word against the entire Miller family. The basement door stood open. I hadn't checked down there yet. I have to go, Evan. I need to see what else they took. Audrey, wait. I hung up and descended the stairs, each step creaking under my feet. The basement light flickered on, revealing more chaos. But something caught my eye. A small piece of paper trapped under a fallen box. I pulled it free. It was a receipt from the hardware store 3 days ago for a duplicate key. My phone buzzed again. Ryan. Where are you? I asked before he could speak. At Mom's. Listen, Audrey, I can explain. Did you give her a key? Silence. Then, she said she just wanted to look for some old family photos while you were away. I didn't think. You never do think when it comes to her, do you? I crushed the receipt in my fist. Those letters were all I had left of my grandmother, Ryan, the only things that were truly mine. We can talk about this when I get home. No. The word came out sharp enough to cut. We'll talk about this in front of everyone. I'm coming over there right now. And Ryan, tell your mother to prepare for war. I ended the call and stood in my destroyed basement, surrounded by the wreckage of trust. They thought they could break me, make me submit to their control, like everyone else in their lives. But they had no idea what they'd just started. Sometimes the most dangerous opponent isn't the one who strikes first. It's the one who knows how to strike back harder. Helen's pristine living room made my skin crawl. Everything perfectly arranged, not a cushion out of place, while my house lay in ruins across town. The family photos on her walls told their own story. Ryan and Chloe's childhood moments, carefully curated to show Helen's version of reality. Not a single picture of my wedding day among them. I have no idea what you're talking about. Helen's voice dripped honey-sweet poison as she poured tea into delicate cups. Ryan gave me permission to look for old family albums while you were away. Nothing more. Chloe sat beside her mother, arms crossed, wedding ring conspicuously absent. You're being hysterical, Audrey, as usual. I placed the hardware store receipt on the coffee table. Funny how you needed a new key made 3 days ago. Planning ahead? Ryan shifted in his seat, eyes darting between his mother and me. Maybe we should all calm down. Oh, we're very calm, I said, watching Helen's perfectly manicured fingers tighten around her teacup. Just like we were calm last Christmas when you went through my phone while I was sleeping. Or last month when you showed up unannounced at my office to check on me. I worry about my son, Helen said. Someone needs to look out for his interests. His interests. My laugh felt like broken glass in my throat. Or yours. Mother was right about you from the start. Chloe leaned forward, eyes gleaming. You never understood our family, always keeping secrets, hiding things in that safe of yours. Those letters belong to my grandmother. Letters that prove your family cheated ours 60 years ago. Helen's mask cracked. That property should have been ours. Your grandmother knew exactly what she was doing when she... Mother! Ryan's warning came too late. I stood slowly, pieces clicking into place. So you admit you took them? Helen's face smoothed over instantly. I admitted nothing. And you have no proof. You're right. I pulled out my phone, thumb hovering over the record button. But I will. Ryan, are you coming home or staying here? He looked at his mother, then at me. Always torn, always choosing the path of least resistance. I think maybe we all need space to cool off. Wrong answer. I headed for the door, pausing to look back at Helen. You know what's funny? Those letters you stole? They're not even the originals. Just copies I kept as decoys. Grandmother taught me well. Always keep what matters most, where manipulative people can't reach it. Helen's teacup clattered against its saucer. You're lying. Am I? Guess you'll have to wonder about that, along with what else I might have hidden away. I met Ryan's eyes. Don't bother coming home tonight, or maybe ever. Audrey, wait. He started to rise, but Chloe grabbed his arm. Let her go, she said. She's just trying to manipulate you, like always. I closed the door on Helen's perfectly ordered world and walked to my car. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel, but not from fear. The originals were safe, just as I'd said, locked away in a safety deposit box since the day I married Ryan, and saw the hunger in Helen's eyes when grandmother's letters were mentioned at the wedding. My phone buzzed. Evan again. How bad was it? He asked. They took the bait. Helen practically confessed. I started the engine. But I need your help with something else. Remember that security system you installed at your lake house? The one with the hidden cameras. Yeah, why? Because I'm done playing defense. They want to go through my things? Let's make sure we catch them in the act next time. I pulled away from Helen's house, watching it shrink in my rearview mirror. And Evan, thank you for being the one person in my life who actually listens. Always. But Audrey, just be careful. People like that, they're most dangerous when they're cornered. I ended the call, mind already racing with plans. Helen thought she knew everything about me, had me all figured out. But she'd forgotten one crucial detail. I'd spent 3 years watching her manipulate everyone around her. I'd learned from the best, and now it was time to put those lessons to use. The coffee shop across from Helen's favorite salon wasn't my usual spot, but it gave me a perfect view. I'd been watching for 2 hours when Evan slid into the seat across from me, pushing a fresh cup toward my hands. "The cameras are set up," he said. "Motion sensors, night vision, everything feeding directly to your phone. But are you sure about this?" I nodded toward the salon's window, where Helen and Chloe sat getting their weekly manicures. "Listen." I pressed play on my phone, their voices crystal clear through the bug I'd planted in Helen's purse during our confrontation. "We need those original letters," Helen was saying. "That safety deposit box has to be at her bank downtown." "Ryan says she's been going through their financial records," Chloe replied, "probably planning to divorce him and take everything." Over my dead body, I didn't spend 30 years building this family's reputation to have her destroy it. "We're going back to the house tomorrow while she's at work. There has to be something we can use against her." I stopped the recording. "Still think I'm paranoid?" Evan's face hardened. "We should take this to the police." "And tell them what?" "That my mother-in-law is planning to rob me. They'll say it's a family matter." I wrapped my hands around the warm cup. "Besides, I want more than just stopping them. I want them to face consequences for once in their privileged lives." My phone buzzed, Ryan calling again. "Third time today." I declined it. "He's been sleeping at their house," I said. "Probably plotting with them, trying to figure out where the originals are. Or maybe he's worried about you. Then he should have worried before giving them a key to our house." The coffee turned bitter in my mouth before choosing them over me again. A text from Ryan. "Please come home. We need to talk." "Home," I muttered. Like that means anything anymore. Evan leaned forward. "Audrey, I know you're hurt, but..." The salon door chimed. Helen and Chloe emerged, fresh manicures gleaming. They headed toward Helen's Mercedes, but Helen paused, looking directly at the coffee shop window. I didn't move, couldn't breathe. Her lips curved into that knowing smile I'd grown to hate. She knew I was watching. "Time to go," I said, standing abruptly. "They'll be at my house tomorrow at 10, according to their usual schedule. That's when we'll catch them." "We?" Evan raised an eyebrow. "I thought you wanted to handle this yourself." I do, but..." I gathered my things, hands shaking slightly. "I can't face them alone anymore. I need someone in my corner. Always." He touched my arm gently. "Just promise me something. Don't let revenge consume you. I've seen what it does to people." I watched Helen's car pull away, remembering the day she'd first shown her true colors. Our wedding reception, when she'd cornered me in the bathroom. "You'll never be good enough for this family," she'd said. "One day, Ryan will realize that." "This isn't about revenge," I told Evan. "It's about justice, and maybe saving Ryan from them, even if he doesn't want to be saved." My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. I opened it and felt my blood freeze. "Found something interesting in your grandmother's old law firm records. Tomorrow noon, Riverside Park. Come alone, or Ryan learns everything about the Anderson case." Evan noticed my expression. "What's wrong?" I closed the message, mind racing. The Anderson case, my grandmother's biggest regret, the secret she'd taken to her grave. The real reason Helen hated our family. "Nothing," I lied, forcing a smile. "Just work stuff. I should go prepare for tomorrow." But as I walked to my car, Helen's words from 3 years ago echoed in my head. One day Ryan will realize that. Maybe she was right. Maybe tomorrow he would. And maybe it was time he did. Riverside Park looked different at noon. Colder somehow. I sat on a bench, clutching a manila envelope. Ammunition for whatever game Helen was playing. The Anderson case, files my grandmother had sealed away decades ago. Now a weapon in my hands. A shadow fell across my lap. Not Helen. "Ryan?" My voice cracked. "What are you?" "Mother told me everything." He sat beside me, leaving careful space between us. About the Anderson case. About what your grandmother did to our family. The envelope felt heavier. Did she tell you how your grandfather tried to blackmail mine? How he threatened to destroy their law firm unless they gave him that property? That's not— He stopped, rubbing his face. She said you'd try to twist things. Like she twisted you. I turned to face him. When did you give her the safe combination, Ryan? His silence was answer enough. The day after our wedding, I continued. When she convinced you I was hiding something. That's why you've been checking our bank statements, right? Looking for evidence I'm stealing from you? I was protecting our family. Our family. The laugh that escaped me didn't sound like my voice. There is no our family. There's only ever been yours. My phone buzzed. Evan texting about the cameras he'd installed. Everything was ready for tomorrow's trap. But suddenly, it all felt hollow. She's using you, I said softly. She always has. And you let her because it's easier than standing up to her. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I stood, dropping the envelope in his lap. Here. The precious Anderson case files. Proof that your grandfather was the one who committed fraud, not mine. Proof that your mother's been lying all these years. He stared at the envelope. How did you get them? From my grandmother's old partner. Turns out he's been waiting years for someone to finally expose the truth. I stepped back. But you know what? Keep them. Burn them. Give them to Helen. I don't care anymore. Audrey, wait. I filed for divorce yesterday. The words hung between us like shattered glass. Ryan's face went pale. You what? Check your email. The papers should arrive today. My hands were steady now. I'm done being the villain in Helen's story. Done watching you choose them over me. Done pretending we have a marriage worth saving. He stood, reaching for me. We can fix this. I'll talk to Mother. That's exactly the problem. I moved away from his touch. Your first instinct is still to run to her. It always will be. My phone buzzed again. Helen this time. Where are you? We had a deal. I typed back. Deals changed. Ask Ryan about the files. You can't just throw away 3 years of marriage, Ryan said. You already did that when you gave them the key to our house. I started walking away, then paused. You know what the saddest part is? I actually thought I could save you from them, but you don't want to be saved. Audrey. Goodbye, Ryan. I walked through the park, past the spot where he proposed, past the bench where we used to have Sunday picnics. My phone kept buzzing. Helen, Ryan, even Chloe. I silenced them all. Only Evan's message got through. Cameras are live. You still want to go through with tomorrow's plan? I stopped at the park exit, looking back one last time. Ryan stood where I'd left him. Envelope clutched in his hands, looking lost. For a moment, my resolve wavered. Then I remembered the ransacked house, the violated safe, 3 years of subtle manipulation and gaslighting. Yes, I texted back. But change of plans. I don't just want to catch them in the act anymore. What do you want? I watched Ryan pull out his phone, probably calling Helen, always running back to Mother. I want to destroy them, I typed. All of them. Because sometimes the only way to save yourself is to burn everything to the ground and start over. The security camera feed flickered on my laptop screen as I sat in my car across the street. 10 minutes until Helen's usual Thursday morning intrusion. Evan's sophisticated setup captured every angle of my house. Front door, back door, even the garden path Helen loved to criticize. You don't have to watch this, Evan said from the passenger seat. We can just let the cameras record. I need to see it. My knuckles whitened around my coffee cup. Need to know exactly how they do it. Right on schedule, Helen's Mercedes glided to a stop in front of my house. She stepped out, perfectly coiffed as always, followed by Chloe. But then a third door opened. Ryan. The coffee cup crumpled in my grip. He's helping them. They approached the front door, Ryan glancing nervously over his shoulder. Helen said something, gesturing impatiently. He pulled out a key, not the copy, but his original. Jesus, Evan muttered. Audrey, maybe we should— Wait, I grabbed his arm as a fourth figure emerged from Helen's car. "Who is that?" The man in the expensive suit walked with authority, carrying a briefcase. He looked familiar somehow. "That's James Morton," Evan said, "Helen's lawyer. I've seen him at charity events." The group disappeared inside my house. I switched between camera views, watching them move through rooms with disturbing familiarity. Helen directed them like a general commanding troops. "The study," she was saying, voice clear through the hidden microphones. "Those Anderson files have to be here somewhere." "Mother, she said she gave them to me," Ryan protested weakly. "Copies, obviously. You think your wife would give up her only leverage? Search everything." I watched them tear through my home again, but this time was different. This time, I saw Ryan's hands shaking as he opened drawers, saw Chloe's satisfied smirk as she knocked books off shelves, saw Helen's mask slip when she thought no one was watching, revealing raw desperation beneath. "The safe," Morton said suddenly. "Did you check behind it?" My breath caught. The wall safe had been a decoy. Everyone knew about it. But behind it, "There's nothing back there," Ryan said quickly, too quickly. Helen's eyes narrowed. "Move it. Mother, move it." I grabbed my phone, fingers hovering over 911. Behind that safe was a hidden compartment, installed by the previous owner. Inside were documents far more damaging than the Anderson case. Evidence of Helen's own financial misconduct, carefully gathered over 3 years of watching and waiting. Ryan stepped forward, then stopped. "No." "What did you say?" Helen turned on him. I said no. His voice strengthened. "This ends now. We're leaving. After everything I've done for you." Helen's calm cracked. "That woman has poisoned you against your own family. That woman is my wife." "Not anymore," Morton interrupted smoothly. "The divorce papers were filed yesterday. You have no legal right to prevent us from..." "From what?" I stepped into the doorway, phone recording everything. Breaking and entering, destruction of property, conspiracy. They froze like guilty children, except Helen. She smiled that knowing smile. "Perfect timing, dear. We were just discussing the Anderson case and other family matters." "I can see that." I moved further into the room, Evan close behind. "But you made one mistake, Helen. You got sloppy. Desperate." "I don't know what you mean." "The Anderson case was never about property fraud, was it? It was about covering up what really happened. What you did." Her smile slipped. "You're confused. The real documents aren't behind that safe. They're already with the district attorney." I met Ryan's stunned gaze. "Along with proof that your mother embezzled millions from her own charity foundation. That's why she's so desperate to find evidence against my family. To protect herself." The room erupted in chaos. Helen lunged for her lawyer. Chloe started screaming. Ryan stood frozen between them all. But I kept my eyes on Helen, watching her perfect world crumble. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. Sometimes it's about letting them destroy themselves. And sometimes justice comes from simply telling the truth. The police lights painted my living room in alternating red and blue. Helen sat primly on the couch, tears streaming down her perfectly made-up face as she spoke to the officers. "I was just trying to protect my son," she sobbed. "From her." She pointed at me, and I watched 3 years of careful planning crumble. "Mrs. Miller was threatening our family," Morton added smoothly. "We have evidence of her harassment, her obsession with destroying her mother-in-law's reputation. The break-in was merely an attempt to recover documents that rightfully belonged to the family." My phone felt heavy in my pocket. The recording of their intrusion now useless. They'd gotten ahead of me, turned it all around, just like Helen always did. "That's not true," Ryan said suddenly. All eyes turned to him. "Mother, stop. Just stop." Helen's tears vanished instantly. "Ryan, dear, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly." He stepped away from her, toward me, but I backed away. "Too little, too late. The embezzlement accusations, they're true, aren't they? That's why you've been so desperate to destroy Audrey's family's reputation, to cover your tracks." Everything I did was for this family. Helen's mask shattered completely. That money secured your future, your sister's future, and she jabbed a finger at me, threatened to ruin everything. The officers exchanged glances. One spoke into his radio. "Mrs. Helen Miller, we're going to need you to come down to the station. This is absurd. I'm the victim here." She turned to her lawyer. "Morton, do something." But Morton was already edging toward the door. "I think our professional relationship has concluded, Helen, given the circumstances." Everything happened quickly after that. Helen screaming as they led her away. Chloe following, wailing about family loyalty. Morton slipping out during the chaos. The evidence I'd gathered being collected, documented, tagged. Ryan stayed. "Audrey," he started. "Don't." I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold. "Just don't." "I didn't know about the charity money, about any of it, I swear. But you knew about the break-ins, the harassment, the lies." My voice cracked. "You chose them. Every single time, you chose them. I can fix this." "Fix what?" I gestured at our destroyed home. "My grandmother's letters are still gone. Our marriage is over. Your mother's going to jail. What exactly can you fix?" Evan appeared in the doorway. "Audrey, the detective needs your statement." I moved to follow him, but Ryan caught my arm. "I love you," he said desperately. "Isn't that worth something?" I looked at his hand on my arm, remembering every touch, every promise, every moment I'd thought we were building something real. Then I remembered watching him help them break into our home, watching him choose his mother's lies over my truth one last time. "Love without trust isn't love," I said quietly. "It's just another form of control." I pulled away, leaving him standing in the wreckage of our life together. The detective waited with more questions, more forms, more procedures. Hours of explaining how I'd gathered evidence of Helen's embezzlement, how I'd documented her harassment, how I'd watched my marriage die slowly, under the weight of manipulation and lies. Later, alone in my car, I pulled out my grandmother's last letter, the real one, not the copy Helen had stolen, the one I'd kept close all these years. "Remember, dear heart," she'd written. "Sometimes winning means walking away. Sometimes the greatest victory is in refusing to play their game at all." My phone buzzed. Ryan again. I declined the call and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, I could see him standing in the doorway of what used to be our home, looking lost. For a moment, my heart ached. But as I drove away, I realized something. In trying to destroy Helen, I'd almost become her. Manipulative, obsessed with control, willing to sacrifice anything for victory. My grandmother had been right. The real win wasn't in bringing Helen down. It was in finally setting myself free. The courthouse hallway stretched endless and cold. I sat on a hard wooden bench, watching Helen's society friends whisper among themselves as they waited for her arraignment. 3 weeks since the break-in, and still they couldn't quite believe their charitable board president was facing embezzlement charges. Ryan appeared at the end of the hall, dark circles under his eyes. Chloe clung to his arm, shooting daggers at me with her eyes. I focused on my phone, pretending to read emails. "Audrey," his voice was closer than I expected. "Can we talk?" "The divorce papers are with your lawyer," I said without looking up. "Just sign them." "That's not," he sat beside me, too close. "Mother wants to make a deal." Now I looked at him. "A deal?" "She'll return your grandmother's letters, all of them, if you drop the charges." A laugh bubbled up, bitter as coffee grounds. "You really don't get it, do you? She's still my mother. And that's all that matters, right?" I stood, needing distance. Even after everything she did, everything she stole, she made mistakes. Mistakes, my voice carried, making heads turn. She systematically destroyed our marriage, terrorized me in my own home, stole millions from her own charity. Those aren't mistakes, Ryan. They're choices. Helen's lawyer appeared, beckoning to Ryan. But before he could move, the courthouse doors burst open. Evan rushed in, clutching a manila envelope. "Got it," he said, breathing hard. Found it in Morton's office. I opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Inside was a single document, a letter from Helen to her lawyer, dated 3 years ago, the day before my wedding. "What is that?" Ryan asked. "Insurance," I said, scanning the contents. "In case I ever threatened her control over you." I looked up as Helen entered in handcuffs, flanked by officers. She planned this from the beginning. The harassment, the break-ins, everything. It was all calculated to make me look unstable, obsessed with the Anderson case. Helen's eyes locked onto the letter. For the first time, I saw real fear there. "Where did you get that?" she demanded. "Your lawyer isn't as loyal as you thought." I held up the letter. "You documented everything, Helen. Every step of your plan to destroy me. And now everyone's going to know exactly who you are. You ungrateful little—" She lunged forward, but the officers held her back. "Mother, stop." Ryan moved between us. "Just stop." Helen's face crumpled. "Everything I did was for you, to protect you from her." "From what?" Ryan's voice cracked. "From being happy? From having a life outside your control? She never loved you like I do." "No," I interrupted. "I loved him enough to let him choose. You loved him enough to make sure he never could." The whispers around us grew louder. Helen's friends watched in horror as their perfect society matron shattered before their eyes. Chloe backed away from her mother, finally seeing the truth she'd helped enable. "The arraignment's starting," Evan said softly. I handed the letter to the district attorney, who'd been waiting quietly nearby. Then I turned to Ryan one last time. "I did love you," I said. "But love shouldn't hurt like this. Audrey, please." "Goodbye, Ryan." I walked away as Helen was led into the courtroom, her carefully constructed world collapsing behind me. My phone buzzed, a text from my grandmother's old law partner. "Found something in the archives," it read. "Your grandmother would be proud." Outside, the autumn air felt clean and sharp. Evan caught up with me at the bottom of the courthouse steps. "You okay?" he asked. I watched leaves scatter across the pavement, breaking free from their branches, carried away by the wind. "No," I said honestly, "but I will be. Because sometimes winning isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about refusing to let them destroy you. And sometimes the greatest revenge is simply walking away, head held high, leaving them to face the consequences of their own choices." The last box from my old life sat unopened on my new apartment floor. Through the window, downtown lights glittered like scattered stars, so different from the suburban darkness I'd left behind. My phone lit up, Evan's text about Helen's sentencing. 5 years for embezzlement. The society pages were already buzzing with scandal. Her carefully crafted reputation shattered like a dropped teacup. A knock at the door made me freeze. I knew that pattern. 3 quick taps, 1 slow. Ryan stood in the hallway, holding a familiar leather-bound bundle. "Grandmother's letters," I said, throat tight. "Found them in Mother's study while cleaning out the house." He held them out like a peace offering. "They were always yours." I took the bundle, fingers tracing the worn edges. "How is she?" "Angry. Bitter." He shrugged. "Chloe's in therapy. Says she's starting to understand some things about our family." "And you?" "Learning to stand on my own." He glanced past me into the apartment. "You're painting." An easel stood by the window, canvas half covered in bold strokes of red and gold, something I discovered by accident, a way to pour out everything words couldn't express. "It helps," I said simply. "Audrey, don't." I stepped back, creating distance. "We both know why it ended." "I know, He pulled out an envelope. "The signed divorce papers. And something else you should see." Inside was a newspaper clipping from 30 years ago, a small article about a young Helen Miller, before she married into money, desperately trying to prove herself worthy of high society. "She was always afraid," Ryan said quietly, "of losing control, of being exposed as not good enough. I'm not excusing what she did, but I understand it now. Understanding doesn't make it right. No, but it helps me not become her." A siren wailed somewhere in the city below. In my old life, I would have flinched at the noise. Now it felt like a reminder. Life goes on, changes, transforms. I never wanted revenge, I said, surprising myself with the truth of it. I just wanted to be free. I know, that's why you won. He turned to leave, then paused. The painting, it's beautiful. After he left, I opened the bundle of letters. My grandmother's words flowed across the pages, telling stories of strength, of standing up to bullies, of choosing integrity over revenge. But one passage caught my eye, written just before she died. Remember, dear heart, some people will try to dim your light because they fear their own darkness. Your power lies not in fighting them, but in continuing to shine. I picked up my brush, adding touches of blue to the canvas. Not everything needed resolution. Not every story needed a neat ending. Sometimes victory wasn't in destroying your enemies or even forgiving them. Sometimes it was in discovering who you really were without them. My phone buzzed again. Evan inviting me to dinner. Not a date, not yet, but maybe someday. For now, friendship was enough. For now, I had my freedom, my truth, my art. The city lights flickered, casting shadows that danced across my canvas. In my old life, I would have seen threats in those shadows. Now I saw possibilities, patterns, stories waiting to be told. I picked up another brush. The night was young, the canvas was waiting. And for the first time in years, I felt truly, completely free. Not because I'd won, not because Helen lost, but because I'd finally learned the difference between revenge and liberation. And in that difference, I found myself.
How could you? I screamed, my voice echoing through the empty lot where our family home once stood. All that remained was a pile of rubble. I spotted Trent casually leaning against his BMW, sipping his daily Starbucks as he scrolled on his phone without a care in the world. He slowly looked up. "Oh, hey, babe. Welcome back," he said flatly. "While you were off finding yourself at that retreat, I took care of a little house project for us." My hands trembled and tears stung my eyes. I had just returned from a wellness retreat in the mountains, hoping to regain my strength after losing Mom. Now I came home to this violation. A little project? "Trent, this was our home," I shouted. "You demolished our 25-year life without even telling me?" He shoved his phone in his suit pocket and strode towards me, his imposing figure casting a shadow my way. I stood firm. "Eliza, that old place was getting run down anyway, and we could really use your inheritance money to build ourselves a nice new modern home." His voice turned from nonchalant to a growl. I flashed back to our wedding day when I saw that sparkle in his eyes. Now all I saw was cold, hard greed. "My inheritance? Is that what this is about?" I asked in disbelief. "You destroyed our family home, my memories with Mom, just to get your hands on my money?" "Our money, or at least it should be." Trent fired back, his temper rising. "I'm fed up with you keeping everything separate. The inheritance, your savings. We're married. After everything I've given you, the luxury cars, the country club membership, our children's college funds, you owe me." I stood speechless, rage and heartbreak swirling inside me. This was the man I once loved with my full heart. Lucas and Sophie's father. Now he was a stranger consumed by avarice. "Trent, you supported this family because it's your responsibility, not some favor you did me. I was the one working long hours in the classroom while you wined and dined your CEO friends." My voice grew louder, bolstered by a lifetime's worth of suppressed resentment. "Well, one of us had to bring money into this family, though it seems teaching second graders doesn't pay like it used to," he scoffed. That tore it. I swung my hand swiftly, slapping him hard across the face. The sound cracked through the empty space where warm family memories once echoed. For a moment his face registered shock, then his lips curled into a menacing smile. "You'll regret that, Eliza," he growled, stomping back towards his flashy car. "That inheritance is mine. You can make this easy or difficult, but either way, I'll get what I deserve." I stood alone among the ruins of my life, my mother gone, my home demolished, my husband transformed into a monster. I had dedicated years to my family, putting their needs before my own. Now Trent threatened to steal my last ounce of security, convinced he was owed a cut simply for being my spouse. I sank down atop a pile of gravel that once supported our living room. This man thought he could scare me into submission, believing I'd back down as I always had. The old Eliza may have acquiesced, terrified of conflict and desperate to keep the peace. But losing Mom showed me how fragile life was. I refused to surrender myself any longer. Gripping a chunk of drywall that displayed Lucas's childhood height measurements, I made a vow. Trent underestimated my strength if he expected me to hand everything over. I would fight with my last breath to protect myself and my children. With tears drying and resolve hardening, I marched forward. The demolition debris crunched under my feet, remnants of the past, fuel for my future. I was battered but not broken. Now focused by righteous fury, I pulled out my phone to call the one person I knew would help. "Hello, Claire? It's Eliza. I hope you still have room on your caseload because I need the best divorce lawyer in town." Sitting across from Claire over lukewarm coffees, I delved back into memories I had long suppressed. "Eliza, walk me through your relationship history with Trent," Claire said gently, her voice belying her reputation as a bulldog in the courtroom. I closed my eyes, transported back over 2 decades prior. It was 1998, and at 23 years old, I was focused on kickstarting my teaching career. Trent was an up-and-coming sales executive I met through family friends. Confident and charismatic, he swept me off my feet quickly. We married within a year, and by 30, I had left my job to focus on raising our children full-time. It was always my dream to be a mom. Trent was thrilled, too. He wanted me home, tending to the kids, while he traveled for work. I strived to be the perfect wife and mother. My parents helped tremendously while Trent was away. We were a close, loving family, up until 6 months ago when we lost my father unexpectedly. My mother's health, then, took a sharp decline, following Dad's passing. "I'm so sorry, Eliza." Claire offered gently. "That must have been an incredibly painful time for you. How did Trent respond?" I sighed, anger rising as I replayed his apathetic behavior in my mind. Honestly, Trent grew increasingly impatient and cold. He hated that I was preoccupied caring for my grieving mother. He began making callous comments about me, playing nurse too much. Claire frowned, jotting notes on her legal pad. "And he provided no emotional support during this period?" "None whatsoever. If anything, he often compounded my grief with his cruel reactions." My mind drifted back to one piercing incident. Mom and I were reviewing some old photo albums together, laughing and crying as we relived nostalgic memories. Trent came home unexpectedly early from a work trip. "Ugh, is this what my house has turned into? A pity party patch?" he had grumbled. "Trent," I scolded, "have some compassion. Mom just lost her husband of 40 years. And I just want my wife back. This melancholy scene needs to end." He stormed off to pour himself a scotch. Mom's fragile smile had vanished instantly, replaced by resigned sadness. We didn't look at the albums again. I shook my head, drawn back to the present moment across from Claire. So there you have it. The man I once loved disappeared, consumed entirely by selfishness. And now? My voice quivered as I recounted the image seared into my mind of our demolished home, of Trent's unconscionable betrayal. Claire leaned forward, her expression shifting to righteous anger. "Don't worry, Eliza. We're going to make him pay." Over the next weeks, under Claire's counsel, I dug up documents, financial records, and Trent's vicious text messages. She was confident this evidence would land a favorable judgment. We sat across her wide oak desk reviewing our plan when Claire's phone lit up. She glanced at the screen and her eyebrows shot up. "Well, speak of the devil. It's a text from Trent. He says he wants to meet to discuss things civilly. He must have gotten wind that you lawyered up." Claire let out an icy laugh. My stomach churned, imagining his scheme. "There's no way I'm agreeing to some fake meeting just for him to intimidate me more." I know," Claire agreed. She stared pensively at her phone screen as a sly smile crept across her face. The wheels were clearly spinning behind her intelligent eyes. "Actually, Eliza, I have an idea." She leaned forward, resolve emanating from her. "What if we use this text to set a little trap for your scheming husband?" I nodded cautiously as she detailed a plan to meet Trent under the guise of good faith negotiations. But with Claire secretly recording the conversation, we could obtain hard proof of Trent's coercion and threats. My anxiety melted into tentative relief at the finally holding him accountable. As we wrapped up final preparations for the clandestine meeting, I turned to Claire, new confidence rising within me. Let's do this. It's time for that snake to get exactly what he deserves. Claire smiled knowingly and put a steadying hand on my shoulder. Showtime! My hands trembled as I stared down at the text from Trent confirming our clandestine meeting spot, a discreet cafe downtown far from prying eyes. Though Claire and I had devised an airtight plan to expose his deceit, doubt still gnawed at my core. What verbal assaults awaited me? How far would Trent go to pressure me into relinquishing control of my inheritance? I steeled my nerves, refusing to let past anxiety dictate my actions now. With my family's legacy and financial future at stake, failure was not an option. I arrived early at the nondescript cafe and selected a quiet corner booth, my back to the wall for full visual coverage. I set my phone on the table, discreetly pressing record before concealing it behind a napkin. The bait was laid for Trent's inevitable tirade. Now confident our trap was set, I waited. Right on cue, 15 minutes late as always, Trent sauntered in, a smug look plastered across his handsome yet hardened face. I gestured politely to the seat across from me. Showtime. Well, Eliza, isn't this mature of us to handle things civilly? Trent offered with mock sincerity. I nearly gagged at his attempt to take the high road after demolishing our family home without notice. Instead, I offered a flat smile. Yes, I think it's important we have an open and honest conversation about all this. Trent shifted, clearly unsettled by my nonplussed reaction. He was likely expecting a much more volatile response he could redirect with manipulation as he had done so many times before. Good. Let him squirm a bit. I broke the silence after an awkward beat. I'll cut right to the chase, Trent. Are you willing to negotiate fairly on separation terms? I kept my tone cool yet firm. At this, Trent sneered. The polite facade instantly melted away. Separation? He spat the word. You must be joking. I hope you're not expecting me to agree to anything that compromises my financial future. Compromises his future? Typical Trent. Money and status were all that mattered to him. Certainly not family. I pressed on calmly. I'm talking about splitting things equitably between us. Surely we can be reasonable adults. Trent pounded his fist on the table, rattling the coffee mugs and startling patrons at other tables. No, Eliza, I will not agree to walk away empty-handed. Not after wasting the prime of my career on this lackluster marriage, he jabbed bitterly. You will sign over your inheritance, or I'll make you regret ever threatening this divorce. And there it was, no pretense anymore about preserving our family or saving our marriage. Trent laid bare his singular goal, getting his greedy hands on what he felt he deserved. Behind his macho threats, though, I detected desperation. His future fortune and reputation were at stake if he couldn't manipulate me into conceding. This time he underestimated my resolve. I kept my tone measured. Are you quite finished with your tirade? Because nothing you say will coerce me into just handing everything over. I'm fully prepared for a legal battle. Trent's face reddened, his temper rising. But I recognized the flash of fear behind his harsh glare. My stoic confidence had caught him off guard. You entitled, washed-up loser, he sputtered. I made you everything you have, and this is the thanks I get? You'll regret this, Eliza. No one steals my future. With that, Trent shoved his chair back forcefully, grabbed his jacket, and stormed out, steaming. My hands were trembling again, though this time with relief and triumph. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, to stop the recording. Not only did I hold firm in my refusal to cave to his threats, I now had them all on tape. No more hiding behind a charming veneer. The world would soon hear Trent's true venomous nature. For the first time in months, I broke into a grin. My tormentor's downfall was imminent. With Claire masterfully pulling legal strings and karma beginning to strike back at Trent for his deceit, I had set the stage for his reckoning. I almost pitied the poor guy if he wasn't such a loathsome snake, willing to crush his own family for personal gain. Oh well, no mercy for the selfish fool. After settling my bill, I strode confidently out the door towards a future that shined brighter by the minute. My resolve was steeled for the fight ahead. Trent would bitterly regret the day he crossed me. I sighed, seeing the caller ID flash Trent for the third time that morning. After ignoring his barrage of petty texts, he was apparently resorting to voice messages to vent his frustration. My finger hovered over the decline button when a thought struck me. Trent's behavior had become increasingly erratic and abusive. Building a record of evidence couldn't hurt for the looming legal battle. I answered coolly, "What do you need, Trent?" His voice came through the speaker shrill and commanding. "We need to discuss funeral arrangements for your mother. I already contacted my preferred venue and caterer and put a deposit down. I figured you'd be too emotional to handle planning." My breath caught in my throat. The audacity after months of dismissing my grief, now assuming control and decision-making because I was too hysterical? I managed a terse response. "Actually, Trent, I've already made arrangements with Mom's church and her closest friends are helping coordinate everything. But I'm sure your caterer refunds deposits if you ask nicely." I couldn't help the subtle jab, indicating his presumptuous planning was not required or appreciated. An exasperated sigh followed by a lengthy pause echoed from the phone. When Trent spoke again, any veil of compassion had vanished, revealing biting contempt. "You always were helpless when it came to executive decisions. I don't know why I'm surprised you'd leave the planning to a bunch of old church biddies barely clinging to life themselves." I clenched my phone tightly, holding back a spew of enraged curses. "Breathe, Eliza." His cruelty, shocking as it may sound on tape, could be critical evidence if he tried claiming I was the bitter, unreasonable one later. I responded evenly. "I'm organizing this funeral in alignment with Mom's wishes, something you never bothered to learn in 25 years together. She will be honored respectfully. Please just let me handle this, Trent." Another tense pause followed. For a moment I thought he may have hung up. Then came a chilling, clipped reply. "Fine, Eliza. Throw your quaint little funeral tea party. But don't expect me to stand around making small talk with those religious fanatics. And not a penny extra from my accounts." The line clicked dead. I released a shuddering breath and collapsed onto our bed, which Trent had strategically left stripped of all bedding. Even in death, he continued finding new psychological torture methods. Over the next days, his cruelty only crescendoed. As I sorted through Mom's belongings with supportive friends, he ridiculed the task as feeble sentimentality. When our son Lucas came to help with cleaning, Trent's calm facade broke. "Don't you have exams to be focusing on instead of wasting time on redundant housework?" he had berated our stunned son. All this could have simply been hauled off to Goodwill instead of drama queen Eliza's tedious emotional purge. Lucas retreated from the house quickly after that, clearly pained by his father's escalating bitterness. My heart broke envisioning the distance growing between Trent and the children. He was willing to sever even these bonds in his rabid pursuit of assets and pride. The day of Mom's funeral arrived, gray and weary, mimicking my turbulent mindset. As I dressed in a simple black gown, Trent emerged shirtless, sipping his morning beer. His appearance mirrored the disregard he had shown Mom even while alive. "Give my well wishes to the brainwashed Bible Brigade," he offered snidely. Hot tears stung behind my eyes. I slipped silently out the door into the drizzling rain. The showers disguised streaming tears as I drove to the church. Surrounded by true loved ones there, the service was filled with tender moments, honoring Mom's generous soul. Trent's absence went largely unnoticed. While it pained me he had abandoned us at this sacred time, Trent's recurring callous treatment solidified my will. Any lingering hesitation to push forward on severing ties vanished. His efforts to intimidate me into obedience had only affirmed suspicions of abuse for years. Now, with clear-cut proof, I was determined to fight back legally. As we laid Mom's rose-adorned casket to rest beside Dad, the rain subsided, leaving glimmering puddles in the cemetery grass. The clouds parted, revealing hints of hopeful blue skies beyond life's storms. Gazing into the light, I knew Mom and Dad were cheering me on proudly, and Trent's reckoning awaited on the horizon. Sitting across from Claire, reviewing the latest legal documents, I finally felt empowered and in control. Though Trent continued his petty power moves, I now had the law on my side. "With the testimony and evidence you've provided, we've compiled an ironclad case," Claire assured me, gathering up papers into a leather folio. Her fiery confidence fueled my own. "I'm certain the judge will rule in your favor regarding financial separation, and with documented proof of emotional abuse, you'll easily be granted full custody of your children." A wave of relief washed over me at this prospect. Securing Lucas and Sophie's well-being through the volatile divorce was my priority. Trent's influence had become downright toxic. Protecting them legally would provide peace of mind. "You've worked wonders, Claire," I offered sincerely. "I honestly don't know if I could have come out on top in this fight without you navigating the complex legal channels." Claire smiled humbly, handing me copies of the documents. "I'm happy to play my part, but truly, Eliza, your courage and refusal to be intimidated is what's winning the day here. Don't forget that inner strength." Her words resonated with my core. For so long I had minimized my resilience, believing Trent was the trailblazer. Now clarity revealed I was the foundation holding everything together behind the scenes, and I deserved equitable compensation for my sacrifices. Buoyed by this insight, I practically floated out the law office doors, ready to embrace the next phase with renewed moxie. My steps halted abruptly when I spotted Trent leaning smugly against my Subaru's driver's side door, preventing my entry. "Here we go again." "Well, isn't this cozy?" he offered sarcastically, gesturing to the law office. "Nothing like conspiring with shady lawyers instead of trying to salvage our sacred marriage vows." I scoffed at this warped perspective. I hardly think a healthy marriage involves one partner selfishly demanding assets and demolishing property without consent. "Now please move. You're blocking my car." Trent stepped defiantly in front of the handle as I reached to open it. His height had always given him an intimidation advantage. I refused to cower this time. "Not until you agree to a mediation session with a counselor," Trent demanded. "I'm sure once you explain yours fairly to an expert, they will set you straight about what you are entitled or not to." I nearly gagged at this attempt to silence me by making my protests seem irrational and uninformed. I glared directly at him with emboldened confidence. "I know precisely what I'm entitled to, Trent, and I have an extensive, well-documented legal team securing it without manipulation. You will not cheat me out of my due compensation." His smug veneer flickered briefly with doubt. My audacity clearly hit a nerve. Regaining composure, Trent pressed closer, his stale coffee breath assaulting my senses. "Careful, Eliza. You seem to have forgotten who ensured you lived so well all this time. Threaten my reputation and I'll reduce you to dirt." Though his words raised the hairs on my arms, I didn't flinch. We stood face to face in taut silence, twins titans at the peak of a perilous precipice. I broke the tension calmly. "Feel free to sling threats if it makes you feel powerful, Trent, but we both know you stand to lose far more than I do here." With strength belying my trembling core, I peered unwavering into his dark eyes. "Now for the last time. Get away from my vehicle. You no longer dictate my life." A charged beat passed where anything could have transpired. To my relief, Trent scowled bitterly, then stepped aside, grumbling. I maintained vigilant composure despite quaking inside, safely driving off without glancing back. Maintaining courage through intimidation tactics was not easy, but I realized the breadth of my fortitude, and nothing was stronger than a determined woman protecting her interests against a greedy bully. "Game on, Trent. Your reckoning awaits." I tapped my foot impatiently, glancing between my watch and the imposing courthouse doors. Claire and I had filed the paperwork, petitioning for financial separation over a month ago, and the court date had finally arrived. Yet despite the early hour, Trent was characteristically late, no doubt a feeble attempt to regain control by making me wait anxiously. Little did he know, I had reached a state of zen. The law was on my side. 15 tedious minutes later, Trent came swaggering up the marble steps, not a hair out of place in his arrogantly confident power suit. I offered a cordial smile. "Nice of you make an appearance, Trent. Shall we proceed?" He bristled at my unruffled demeanor, but nodded curtly. I led the way into the expansive courtroom as we took our respective places at the defendants' tables. Claire entered soon after, flanked by our other legal aides, nodding reassurance. I kept my breath steady, visualizing victory as the bailiff called court into session. This was it, Judgment Day, for Trent's deceit. The proceedings commenced efficiently, with Claire masterfully presenting our evidence of emotional abuse and financial coercion. The judge listened solemnly, eyes widening at particularly shocking voicemails from Trent maligning my character. I had to hand it to Claire. She had crafted an utterly unimpeachable case. After what seemed an eternity, the judge cleared her throat, peering sternly over spectacles. In light of the comprehensive evidence provided, I hereby grant the petition for dissolution of shared finances. All assets and inheritance shall remain exclusive property of Eliza, the plaintiff. I nearly collapsed with relief and triumph. Glancing to my right, I noticed Trent turning a shade of crimson I hadn't witnessed since Sophie's terrible twos tantrums. Veins bulged from his neck as he sputtered incoherently, trying to interject. The gavel pounded authoritatively, silencing him. Sweet victory. Additionally, in consideration of documented mental abuse, I'm granting Eliza full legal and physical custody of both minor children, the judge continued firmly. At this, Trent slammed his fists furiously on the tabletop, sending pens flying wildly. This is outrageous, he roared, spit flying. That money is rightfully mine, and you can't take my kids, Eliza. Before the bailiff could react, Trent sent the defendant's table crashing onto its side with a violent shove. He fixed his crazed eyes on me, shouting accusations as security restrained him. Rather than engage, I simply gathered my belongings calmly as he was dragged out, kicking and screaming. You've made a grave mistake, he hollered among straining security guards. I'll take back what's mine, Eliza. This isn't over. His lasting threats echoed down the marbled hall as I strode out to meet Claire with a confident smile. Congratulations, Eliza, Claire grinned as we stepped into sunshine beyond the imposing columns. You are now a very wealthy, single woman, and Trent's hysterics surely didn't help his appeal to the judge. Well done maintaining composure. I let out a deep exhale, feeling years of anxiety and oppression lifting away. Thank you sincerely. I couldn't have navigated this without your counsel. In more ways than one, I chuckled. We exchanged relieved embraces before Claire headed off to handle newly freed-up caseload. Meanwhile, I slid into my Subaru's driver's seat, finally feeling its true owner. Trent's desperate threats didn't faze my cooler state of mind. His burst of outrage proved powerless against the justice system, securing my rights irrevocably. Any sway he once held over me was crushed under the mighty gavel of truth. I turned the ignition key, feeling renewed energy course through the previously strained vehicle. Trent had monopolized the driver's seat of my life for too long. But with his recklessly controlling hands finally off the wheel, I cruised eagerly onward down the open road toward independence. Mom, that creme brulee was amazing! Lucas grinned, leaning back contentedly after our celebratory dinner at the upscale French bistro. We definitely have to come back here. I smiled at my son, who was home on a short break before summer internships ramped up. With Trent temporarily absent from family life, the cloud of tension had lifted. Sophie squeezed my hand affectionately from across the table. I'm so proud of you for standing up to Dad, Mom. You deserved that win in court, she offered sincerely. I swelled with gratitude to have my children close again without fear of callous comments shattering tender moments. As we strolled outside the restaurant, Lucas suddenly gripped my arm, nodding towards the bar next door. There sat Trent, half slumped on a stool, staring numbly at CNN, blaring predictions for an upcoming economic recession. Even from a distance, his unkempt appearance revealed a broken man. I felt Sophie's hand tense on my shoulder. Let's go, Mom, she urged gently. I paused, taking in the scene of my once formidable opponent, diminished to a drunken shell of spite. His legacy and reputation apparently lay in shambles, much like the remains of our demolished home. Investors and elite executives had shunned him after his court outburst made salacious headlines. Rumor was his assets had taken a significant hit in the latest stock market plunge as well. The community backlash only amplified his downfall. Karma's a beast, eh, Trent? Lucas muttered. Seeing his disheveled father still sparked sadness behind the resentment in Lucas's eyes. Sophie linked her arm through his comfortingly as they walked ahead to gather an Uber. I stood frozen, gazing upon the aftermath of Trent's greed and hubris. Claire was right. He had far more to lose than me by refusing to compromise. Now every manipulative scheme and sociopathic threat had come crashing down in a brutal reckoning. Hard times humbled even the proudest titans. Though my righteous anger towards Trent persisted, witnessing his self-destruction awakened traces of pity amongst the bitterness. Perhaps if he demonstrated true remorse and sought help for underlying issues driving his egocentric worldview. My sympathetic pondering was cut short when Trent glanced up blearily from his drink. His bloodshot eyes registered rage seeing me. He rose unsteadily and staggered over, wearing a twisted smirk. "Come to gloat, have you?" he slurred, whiskey breath assaulting my senses. "Little Miss Righteous Victor." Trent wobbled, but spite sharpened his words. I stood calmly, meeting his hollow glare. "No, Trent, just heading home after dinner with our kids, actually. I do hope you'll get the help you need." Before I could finish, Trent erupted in a spit-flying diatribe. "Save your sanctimonious talk. This is your fault, Eliza. Your petty comeuppance threats me destitute and despised." He swayed aggressively closer. "I lost everything because of your self-centered vengeance." Sensing the confrontation escalating, I stepped cautiously back, gesturing to the approaching bartender for assistance. Trent was clearly beyond logical exchange in his inebriated rage. His unhinged tirade continued, attracting shocked attention from passers-by. "Mark my words, Eliza. I will get even. Your little celebratory parade ends now." He lunged towards me as the bartender grabbed him. I retreated quickly to where Lucas and Sophie stood horrified. Police sirens wailed from down the street, responding to calls about the disturbance. "Let's go home," I urged, ushering my shaken children away from the nightmarish scene. Glancing back, I glimpsed Trent being shoved into a squad car, drunkenly raging about comeuppance as they sped away. The vengeance Trent had poisonously plotted was now his own ruin, woven by greed. And despite his threats, watching him fade, unhinged and unwell in flashing police lights, I pitied more than feared the broken, bitter man. A year had passed since that tumultuous night, witnessing Trent unravel completely. His drunken threats persisted for months between jail sentences and court-ordered rehab sessions. But word was he had finally accepted a lenient sentence at an upstate center specializing in anger issues and financial disorders. With Trent's toxicity no longer poisoning my home space, I began envisioning how to rebuild, starting with restoring the literal foundation he had callously crushed. On a refreshingly mild Saturday morning, I stood smiling with Lucas and Sophie on the vacant lot where our family home once stood sturdy for decades. Claire snapped photos capturing the hopeful moment as we broke ground to construct a new dwelling, not haunted by residual darkness. "I'm so proud of you, Mom," Sophie repeated, squeezing my shoulder. "This is a fresh start for all of us." I surveyed the space, buzzing with construction crews hauling lumber, while Lucas and I discussed potential layouts. Trent's devastating demolishment had crushed more than bricks and mortar. But rising resilient from the rubble, I would forge new sanctuaries for my children, devoid of oppressive shadows. Over the next year, tangible rebuilding progressed in tandem with inner healing. With each golden beam raised and brick mortared in place, I sensed our spirits mending as well. Soon the lingering wounds from Trent's destruction would be more scar tissue than open gash. On a crisp autumn afternoon, I gathered with loved ones to celebrate the finished product, a gorgeous contemporary farmhouse blending vintage charm with sleek upgrades. Sophie and Lucas had invited college friends. Supportive relatives filled the home with infectious laughter. As caterers circulated with champagne to commemorate the occasion, I paused to admire photos adorning the fireplace mantel. Images of my parents smiled down, filled with eternal light and love despite their earthly absence. Gazing around at those present, additional missing faces stood out painfully. Trent's parents had shown their true colors, aligning firmly with their son despite incriminating evidence against him. And Trent himself sat stewing in isolation, still too prideful to take accountability. Their self-imposed misery was punishment enough. Occasional pangs of sadness resurfaced, missing the man Trent used to be before ambition consumed him. But focusing forward allowed me to appreciate life's everyday joys again, instead of dwelling on toxic relationships. Later, after guests had dispersed with hearty congratulations and housewarming bouquets, Sophie joined me on the front porch, gazing up at constellations glittering optimistically. She broke the pensive silence. "Dad sent me a brief letter today from the rehab center. It sounds like intensive counseling is helping him finally reflect more on the consequences of his actions." Though skeptical about authentic transformation from brief therapy, I nodded. "That's promising. Real change takes time, though." I hugged Sophie in closer. "But the most crucial relationships to fortify are right here with people committed to lifting us higher." Sophie smiled up brightly through tears glinting in the moonlight. In her strength and sensitivity, my greatest co-creation glowed. She would perpetuate cycles of compassion, not malice. Together we sat in meditative silence, connected to forces intricately crafting redemption from ruin. Though scars remained, Trent's corrosion had only illuminated my resilient spirit. His darkness merely fertilized future flowers determined to keep blooming.
The envelope felt heavy in my hands, despite containing just a single sheet of paper. My father's stern expression told me everything I needed to know before I even opened it. This wasn't going to be a Merry Christmas Eve. I'm Zuriel, and this was the moment my family decided I wasn't worth keeping around. Well, aren't you going to open it? My sister Michaela's sugary sweet voice cut through the tension in our family's living room. She sat perched on the arm of Mom's favorite leather chair, already wearing the diamond bracelet they'd given her moments earlier. The crackling fireplace and twinkling Christmas tree felt like a mockery now. I carefully broke the seal, aware of 4 pairs of eyes boring into me. The lawyer, Ernest, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Not exactly your typical holiday guest. I don't understand, I said, my voice surprisingly steady as I read the document. You're cutting me out of the will completely? Mom, Vanessa to her society friends didn't even look up from her wine glass. It's for the best, dear. You've made your choices and we've made ours. My choices? I laughed, but it came out hollow. You mean starting my own business instead of joining the family company? A bakery. Dad's voice dripped with disdain. We spent a fortune on your education, and you want to spend your life making cupcakes. They're not just cupcakes, Dad. It's my dream. Dreams don't pay bills. He cut me off. Michaela understands responsibility. She's already showing real promise at the firm. My sister's smirk grew wider. Don't be dramatic, Zuri. You knew this was coming. I mean, what did you expect? I folded the paper carefully, my hands trembling slightly. The Christmas tree lights reflected off the glossy paper, creating dancing patterns that reminded me of the sparklers we used to wave around as kids, back when family meant something different. Actually, I stood up, smoothing my dress. I expected better from my parents. Silly me. Now, Zuriel, Ernest intervened. Perhaps we could discuss this after the holidays. There's nothing to discuss. Mom's voice was ice. The decision is final. I walked to the coat rack, pulling on my winter jacket. The wool felt scratchy against my neck, or maybe that was just the lump forming in my throat. Where are you going? Dad demanded. We haven't even had dinner yet. I've lost my appetite. I reached for my purse, pausing at the doorway. You know what's funny? You all think you're punishing me, but really... I smiled, thinking about the secret I'd been keeping. You might be punishing yourselves more than you realize. What's that supposed to mean? Michaela stood up, her perfectly manicured brows furrowing. Merry Christmas, I said, ignoring her question. And good luck. Something tells me you're going to need it. The heavy oak door closed behind me with a satisfying thud. Outside, snow was falling softly, muffling the sound of Christmas carols drifting from neighboring houses. I pulled out my phone and dialed a familiar number. Natasha? Yeah, it's done. They did exactly what we expected. I walked to my car, boots crunching in the fresh snow. No, I'm okay. Actually, I'm better than okay. Remember that thing we talked about? I think it's time. As I drove away from my childhood home, I couldn't help but smile. They thought they were writing me out of their story, but they had no idea. I was about to become the author of their downfall. My phone buzzed with a text from Michaela. Hope you're happy with yourself. You've ruined Christmas. I typed back quickly. On the contrary, sis, this is the best Christmas gift I could have gotten. Freedom. Turning onto the main road, I headed toward downtown, where my real future waited. The family might have their precious will, but I had something better. A plan. And thanks to their own oversight, I had the means to execute it perfectly. The vacation house they'd carelessly left in my name years ago would fund my dreams, and their nightmare. They just didn't know it yet. Some legacies aren't inherited, I whispered to myself, watching the family mansion shrink in my rearview mirror. They're built from scratch, just like the perfect cake. The snow kept falling, covering my tire tracks, erasing any trace of my presence from their perfectly manicured driveway. By this time next year, everything would be different, and I couldn't wait to serve them their just desserts. 3 months earlier, I stood in front of the lakeside vacation house, key in hand, while Natasha whistled low beside me. And they seriously forgot this was in your name? She ran her hand along the pristine siding. A whole-ass vacation house? Dad put it in my name 5 years ago for tax purposes. I unlocked the door, breathing in the musty air. They haven't used it in 3 years, probably don't even remember it exists. The interior was exactly as I remembered. All pine furniture and nautical decorations, frozen in time like a perfectly preserved museum of family memories I no longer wanted. How much do you think it's worth? Natasha asked, peeking through the lakefront windows. I pulled out my phone, showing her the realtor's estimate. Her eyes widened. Holy shit, Zuriel. That's enough to open my bakery and then some. I smiled, running my fingers along the dusty kitchen counter. The down payment, equipment, first year's rent, everything. Your parents are going to lose their minds when they find out. That's the best part. They won't find out until it's too late. I opened the fridge, grimacing at the ancient condiments inside. The property transfer was legal. They signed it over to me fair and square. Natasha flopped onto the couch, sending up a cloud of dust. Okay, walk me through this master plan of yours again. Simple. I sell the house, use the money to open the Dreamweaver bakery, and still think that name's a bit much. Shut up, it's perfect. I threw a dusty throw pillow at her. Anyway, I open the bakery, establish myself, and wait. Wait for what? For karma to do its thing. I sat beside her. See, what my family doesn't know is that their precious company is in trouble. Big trouble. How do you know that? Remember my friend Brett? He works in commercial banking. Let's just say their last loan application wasn't exactly approved. The next few weeks were a blur of real estate agents, paperwork, and secret meetings. The house sold faster than expected. Turns out lakefront property is quite desirable, even in need of updating. You're really doing this, Brett said over coffee one morning, reviewing my business plan. I've got to admit, when you first mentioned it, I thought you were just venting. People always underestimate me, I replied, sliding him a sample of my latest recipe. Try this. He took a bite of the lavender honey cake and closed his eyes. Okay, scratch that. You're definitely doing this. This is incredible. That's not even my best recipe. I pulled out my laptop, showing him the location I'd found. What do you think? Downtown, high foot traffic, reasonable rent. He nodded approvingly. You've done your homework, but are you sure you want to burn this bridge with your family? They burned it first. I closed the laptop firmly. Besides, this isn't about revenge. It's about finally doing something for myself. But even as I said it, I couldn't ignore the satisfaction I felt knowing what was coming. The day I signed the lease, Natasha brought champagne to the empty storefront. We sat on the floor, drinking from paper cups. To the Dreamweaver, she toasted. May your revenge be as sweet as your pastries. It's not revenge, I protested weakly. Honey, you're literally using their forgotten vacation house to fund your independence while they're about to face financial ruin. That's some premium revenge right there. I couldn't argue with that. The contractors started work the next day, transforming the space into my vision. Every decision felt like a step further from my family's shadow. The warm copper light fixtures, the exposed brick walls, the custom display cases. The morning we installed the sign, I stood across the street, watching the gold letters catch the sunlight. The Dreamweaver Bakery and Cafe. My dream. My name. My rules. My phone buzzed. A text from Michaela. Mom and Dad are worried about you. They say you're not returning their calls. I typed back. Been busy. Big things happening. Whatever. Just don't come crying to us when your little hobby fails. I smiled, pocketing my phone as the first delivery of professional equipment arrived. Let them think I was playing at business. Let them dismiss me one last time. "Where do you want the ovens?" the delivery man called out. "Against that wall," I pointed, "where everyone walking by can see them through the windows." Because that was part of the plan too, letting success speak for itself. In 3 months, this place would be impossible to ignore, especially from the windows of my family's law firm just 2 blocks away. The sweet smell of karma was already in the air, and soon it would be baking. "We've got another line out the door," Sarah, my newest hire, called from the front, "and 3 more wedding cake consultations just booked online." I wiped the flour from my hands and peeked through the kitchen door. The morning sun streamed through our front windows, illuminating a queue of eager customers that stretched past the neighboring shops. 3 months in, and the Dreamweaver had become the talk of downtown. "Your red velvet cake just got featured on Food & Wine's Instagram," Brett announced, walking in through the back door. He'd taken to stopping by most mornings, usually with local business news and a hungry look in his eyes. "Here." I handed him a fresh cranberry orange scone. "Payment for being my unofficial business advisor." "Speaking of business," he lowered his voice, glancing around. "Word on the street is your family's firm isn't doing so hot. They've had to let go of 3 junior partners already." I concentrated on piping delicate roses onto a wedding cake sample. "Is that so?" "You know, most people would feel bad about their family struggling. Most people's families wouldn't disown them over following their dreams." I set down the piping bag. "Besides, I warned them, sort of." The bell above the door chimed, and I heard Natasha's familiar laugh. "Oh my God, you have to see this," she called out, waving her phone. "The local paper just published their Best of Downtown list. Guess who's number 1 in the food category?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Michaela's name flashed on the screen. "Well, well," I muttered, answering. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" "Is it true?" She didn't bother with hello. "You're the one who bought that building on 3rd Street?" I smiled, remembering the offer I'd made last week. The success of the Dreamweaver had left me with enough capital to start investing in real estate. "Actually, I'm in the process of buying 3 buildings on 3rd Street. "Why?" She paused. "That's where Dad was planning to expand the firm." "Oh, really?" I sprinkled edible gold dust on a batch of macarons. "Guess he'll have to find somewhere else. Property values are crazy downtown these days." "You're doing this on purpose, aren't you?" "Doing what? Running a successful business? Making smart investments? Isn't that what you all wanted me to do?" The line went quiet for a moment. "Mom wants to know if you'll come to dinner next week." "Sorry, can't. I'm catering the mayor's daughter's wedding. But hey, feel free to stop by the bakery sometime. We make an amazing humble pie." After hanging up, I turned to find Brett and Natasha staring at me. "That was cold," Brett said, but he was grinning. "That was perfect," Natasha corrected. "But you never told me about the buildings on 3rd Street." "Because I just finalized the paperwork this morning." I pulled out a folder from under the counter. 3 historic buildings, prime location, and guess who's going to be my first tenant? "Who?" "That artisanal coffee roaster you love. They're opening their flagship store." I showed them the lease agreement. "Between their rent and the Dreamweaver's profits, I'll be able to buy 2 more properties by year's end. While your family's firm downsizes," Brett mused. "That's some masterful chess you're playing." A commotion from the front interrupted us. Through the kitchen window, I spotted my mother's perfectly coiffed hair in the crowd. "Speaking of chess," I muttered. "Showtime!" I stepped into the front, watching as she took in the bustling cafe, the elegant decor, the happy customers. Her expression shifted from disdain to surprise to something that looked almost like regret. "Zuriel," she said stiffly. "This is unexpected." "Hi, Mom. What can I get you? Our signature dream cake is featured in Food & Wine this month." She flinched at my casual tone. "Your father and I need to discuss something with you. Something important." "I'm pretty busy here." I gestured to the full cafe. "You know how it is, running a successful business and all. Please," she said. And for the first time in years, I heard a crack in her perfect facade. It's about the firm. We need your help. I let the words hang in the air, savoring them like the perfect bite of dessert. Behind her, Natasha was practically vibrating with anticipation. Well, I said finally, I do have a cancellation for my last appointment today. I could meet you at 5. I paused, then added with a sweet smile, at my office, of course. Mom's eyes darted around the bakery, my bakery, and she nodded stiffly. As she left, Natasha sidled up to me. You're going to make them grovel, right? I watched my mother's retreating form through the window, remembering Christmas Eve, remembering years of dismissal and disappointment. No, I said, turning back to my customers. I'm going to make them eat cake. At exactly 5 o'clock, my parents walked into the Dreamweaver. The evening sun cast long shadows through the windows, and I'd closed early, sending my staff home. Only Natasha remained, pretending to clean tables while eavesdropping shamelessly. Would you like some tea? I offered, gesturing to the vintage tea set I'd arranged. It's Earl Grey. Your favorite, Mom. This isn't a social call, Dad snapped, but Mom put a hand on his arm. Tea would be lovely, she said, settling into one of the copper-backed chairs. Her eyes kept darting around the bakery, taking in the fresh flowers, the gleaming display cases, the wall of press clippings. I poured 3 cups, adding a plate of lavender shortbread. So, what brings you to my little hobby? Dad's jaw tightened. We need to discuss a business proposition. Business? I raised an eyebrow. I thought making cupcakes wasn't a real business. Things have changed, Mom said carefully. The firm is facing some temporary difficulties. Temporary? I took a sip of tea. That's not what I heard. I heard you've laid off staff, lost major clients, and your credit rating is in the toilet. How did you... Dad started, then his eyes narrowed. Brett, that little snake. Brett's a friend. Unlike family, friends actually look out for each other. Mom set down her cup with a clatter. We're here because we need a partner, someone with liquid assets and business acumen. I couldn't help but laugh. Business acumen? 3 months ago, you said I was throwing my life away. We were wrong, Mom said quietly, and for a moment I almost believed her. What you've built here? It's impressive. Very impressive, Dad added, though it clearly pained him. The mayor's daughter's wedding, the press coverage, the property investments. Ah, I interrupted. So this is about 3rd Street. Among other things. He pulled out a folder. We're prepared to offer you a partnership in the firm. Full voting rights, equal share with Michaela. I took the folder but didn't open it. And what makes you think I'd want that? Because it's your legacy, Mom insisted. Your birthright. My legacy? I stood up, walking to the wall of press clippings. This is my legacy. Those buildings on 3rd Street? My legacy. This bakery that you said would fail? That's my legacy. The firm is struggling, Dad admitted, his voice rough. Without an injection of capital, you'll lose everything, I finished. Funny how karma works, isn't it? From her spot by the tables, Natasha didn't even pretend not to be listening anymore. What do you want? Mom asked, desperation creeping into her voice. Name your price. I turned back to them, leaning against the counter. You really don't get it, do you? This isn't about money. This is about respect. Recognition. Everything you never gave me. We're giving it now. Dad's fist hit the table, rattling the teacups. No, you're not. You're here because you're desperate. Because your perfect daughter, Michaela, can't save you, and your backup plan just bought the buildings you needed. Mom's face paled. The vacation house. That's how you funded all this. The vacation house you forgot was in my name? Yes. Turns out I'm pretty good at managing assets when people underestimate me. You planned this, Dad accused. All of it. No, you planned this. Every time you dismissed my dreams, every time you favored Michaela, every time you tried to force me into your mold. I opened the folder, scanned the partnership offer, then slowly tore it in half. I just adapted. "You're enjoying this," Mom whispered, watching us suffer. "Actually, I'm not." I gathered the torn papers. "I'm just finally standing up for myself. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a wedding cake to finish." They stood, Dad's face red with anger, Mom's with shame. At the door, she turned back. "What about family?" she asked. "Doesn't that mean anything to you?" It meant everything to me, until Christmas Eve when you showed me exactly how little it meant to you. After they left, Natasha let out a long whistle. That was intense. "It's not over," I said, starting to clear the tea service. "They'll be back." And nothing. The firm can sink or swim on its own. I'm done playing their games. My phone buzzed. A text from Michaela. "How dare you turn them down? They were trying to make peace." I typed back. "No, they were trying to save themselves. Big difference. By the way, how's that corner office working out?" Natasha read the exchange over my shoulder. "You know what this calls for?" "What?" She grinned, pulling out 2 forks. "Revenge cake." We spent the next hour eating leftover wedding cake samples and planning my next property acquisition. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about succeeding so spectacularly they have to watch from the sidelines. "They're filing for bankruptcy," Brett announced, bursting into my office early Monday morning. "Your family's firm. It's happening." I looked up from the stack of invoices I'd been reviewing. "Already? I thought they'd last at least another month." 3 major clients pulled out last week. Word got around about their financial troubles, and he made a diving motion with his hand. It's like watching dominoes fall. My phone lit up with a call from Michaela. I put it on speaker. "This is your fault," she shrieked before I could say hello. "You did this to us. Actually, Mika, you did this to yourselves. I just refused to save you. Mom's a mess. Dad hasn't left his study in 2 days. Is this what you wanted?" I signed the last invoice, pushing it aside. What I wanted was a family that supported me. What I got was disowned on Christmas Eve. Funny how life works out. "We're having a family dinner tonight," she said, her voice suddenly controlled. "You need to come." "Need to? I don't need to do anything." "Please," she whispered, and for the first time since we were kids, I heard genuine emotion in her voice. Everything's falling apart. I glanced at Brett, who shrugged. "Fine. What time?" 7? And Zuriel? Leave your attitude at that bakery of yours." I hung up, turning to Brett. "Want to be my backup?" He shook his head. "This is family business, but text me if you need an escape plan." At 7 sharp, I pulled up to my childhood home. The mansion looked different somehow. Smaller, less intimidating. Like seeing a childhood monster in daylight and realizing it's just a shadow. Michaela opened the door before I could knock. "They're in the dining room. Try not to make things worse." "Lovely to see you too, sis." The dining room was a museum of uncomfortable memories. Formal dinners, lectures about responsibility, countless disappointments. Mom and Dad sat at opposite ends of the massive table, a feast laid out between them. "You came," Mom said softly. "I'm curious by nature." I took my old seat. "So what's this about?" Dad cleared his throat. "We've made mistakes, serious mistakes." "The firm," Mom started. "I know about the bankruptcy," I interrupted. "Brett told me this morning." "Of course he did," Michaela muttered. "We've lost everything," Dad continued. "The house will have to be sold. The cars, the vacation homes." "Home," I corrected. "Singular. I already sold the lake house, remember?" Mom flinched. "We deserve that. But Zuriel, we're still family." "Are we? Because the last time we had dinner together, you handed me disinheritance papers as a Christmas gift." "We were wrong," Dad said, and the admission hung heavy in the air. "About everything. The firm, your bakery, you. The Dreamweaver is worth more than the firm now," Michaela added bitterly. "Happy?" I pushed my untouched plate away. "What do you want from me?" "A chance," Mom said. to make things right, to be a family again. And the fact that I'm successful now has nothing to do with it? We're not asking for money, Dad insisted. No? I raised an eyebrow. Then what are you asking for? Forgiveness, Mom whispered. A fresh start. I stood up, walking to the window. Outside, the garden where I'd once dreamed of having my wedding was overgrown. Another casualty of their financial collapse. You know what's ironic? I turned back to them. If you'd supported my dream from the beginning, I probably would have helped you now. But you made me prove myself by fighting you every step of the way. We know, Dad said. And we're sorry. Sorry doesn't fix years of dismissal. Sorry doesn't erase Christmas Eve. Sorry doesn't... Then tell us what will, Michaela burst out. Tell us how to fix this. I looked at each of them. Mom's perfectly maintained facade cracking, Dad's proud shoulders slumped, Michaela's mascara-stained cheeks. Time, I said finally. Time and proof that you've actually changed. Not because you need something from me, but because you actually understand what you did wrong. And until then? Mom asked. I reached into my bag, pulling out a small box. Until then, you can have this. It's a new recipe I've been working on. I call it Humble Beginnings. Dark chocolate with a hint of bitterness covered in gold leaf. Is this a joke? Michaela asked. No, I replied, heading for the door. It's a reminder. Sometimes you have to lose everything to appreciate what you had. Zuriel, Dad called after me. Will we see you again? I paused in the doorway. The bakery's open Tuesday through Sunday, 9 to 6. You know where to find me. Walking out, I felt lighter somehow. Not because I'd forgiven them, that would take time, but because finally, after all these years, they were the ones watching me walk away. The morning after the family dinner, I arrived at the Dreamweaver to find Michaela waiting outside, still wearing yesterday's clothes. Have you been here all night? I asked, unlocking the door. No, just since 5. She followed me in, dark circles under her eyes. I've been thinking about what you said, about proof. I started my morning routine, firing up the ovens and checking the prep list. And? I want a job. The measuring cup I was holding clattered to the counter. Excuse me? I want to work here. For you. She straightened her shoulders. I need to understand. Understand what? Everything. How you did this. How you knew it would work. How you're so confident now. I studied her face for any sign of manipulation. You've never worked a service job in your life. I know. She swallowed hard. I'll start at the bottom, washing dishes, sweeping floors, whatever you need. Why should I trust you? Because I have nothing left to lose. Her voice cracked. The firm's gone. My savings are gone. My apartment? She trailed off. Let me guess. Dad was paying for it? She nodded miserably. Fine. I tossed her an apron. Start by wiping down all the tables. Then we'll talk. For the next few hours, I watched my perfectly manicured sister scrub tables, mop floors, and learn to operate the industrial dishwasher. She didn't complain once. Your hands are bleeding, I noticed during the lunch rush. She looked down at her cracked red knuckles. It's fine. I deserve worse. Here. I handed her some hand cream. First lesson of service work. Take care of yourself or you can't take care of business. The bell above the door chimed and Mom walked in. She froze at the sight of Michaela in an apron, serving coffee to customers. What are you doing? She asked, horrified. Working, Michaela replied. Table 6 needs more napkins, Zuriel. On it, I called back, watching Mom's reaction. But you're a lawyer. Was a lawyer, Michaela corrected. Now I'm learning how to make an honest living. Mom turned to me. Is this some kind of punishment? No, I said, arranging pastries in the display case. This is her choice. First real one she's ever made, probably. I came to tell you. Mom hesitated. We sold the house. We're moving into a small apartment next week. Good, I replied. Maybe you'll learn something too. Your father's looking for work. Really? What kind? Anything, she admitted. But no one's hiring. Our reputation is exactly what you earned. I finished. Karma's funny that way. The lunch rush picked up and Mom watched as Michaela and I worked in sync, serving customers, making change, keeping the line moving. You're good at this, she said finally. I know. Would you consider hiring Dad? I laughed. Not a chance. But there's a new cafe opening in one of my buildings next month. I'll put in a word with the owner. As what? Dishwasher, probably. Same place Michaela started. Mom's perfectly maintained facade crumbled completely. How did we get here? By believing your own hype, Michaela answered before I could. By thinking we were better than everyone else. By treating Zuriel like she was nothing. Table 8 needs their check, I reminded her. On it, boss. She hurried off, leaving Mom and me alone. She's different, Mom observed. 3 days of honest work will do that to you. I started restocking sugar packets. Are you? Am I what? Different. Really different. Not just desperate for help different. She looked around the bustling cafe, at her youngest daughter serving tables at the empire I'd built from scratch. I'm trying to be. Then try harder. I handed her a business card. That's the cafe owner's number. Tell him I sent you. Dad starts as a dishwasher or not at all. And us? She asked quietly. Will we ever be okay? That depends on you. All of you. I'm done proving myself. It's your turn. After she left, Natasha came in for her usual afternoon coffee. Was that your mom I just passed? Yep. And that's my sister refilling salt shakers. Natasha's jaw dropped. Okay, what alternate universe did I just walk into? The one where Karma finally showed up to work. I handed her a fresh cinnamon roll. Want to help me interview potential tenants for the 3rd Street properties tomorrow? Wouldn't miss it. She glanced at Michaela. Think they'll actually change? Maybe, but that's not my problem anymore. I watched my sister carefully wipe down a table, paying attention to the corners like I'd shown her. My problem is teaching her how to make a proper latte by tomorrow's morning rush. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. Sometimes it's about making them see exactly what they missed out on. One coffee order at a time. 6 months after my sister started washing dishes at the Dreamweaver, I stood in front of my newest acquisition, a 3-story Victorian building on Main Street. The morning sun glinted off the fresh paint and restored windows, highlighting the gold lettering, Dreamweaver Enterprises. Not bad for a girl who just makes cupcakes, Brett said, standing beside me. Speaking of which, Michaela emerged from my car, carrying a box of pastries. She'd traded her designer suits for jeans and practical shoes, and her hands were permanently stained with coffee and flour. The contractors want their usual breakfast order. How's Dad doing at that cafe job? Brett asked her. Still washing dishes, still complaining, but he shows up every day. She shrugged. Mom's actually doing better. She got promoted to shift supervisor at the department store. And you? I turned to her. Ready for your own promotion? She nearly dropped the pastry box. What? I need someone to manage the new location we're opening across town. Someone who understands both the business and service sides. But I've only been here 6 months. 6 months of showing up early, staying late, learning every aspect of the business, and never once complaining about the work. I pulled out a contract. What do you say? Tears welled in her eyes. Why? After everything. Because you earned it. The hard way. The right way. The contractor called out from the building entrance, interrupting our moment. Ms. Zuriel, we need you to approve the final layout for the executive offices. Coming, I called back. Think about it, Mika. Let me know by the end of the week. Inside the building was a maze of activity. Workers installing fixtures, designers arranging furniture, IT people running cables. My empire was growing. "Your father's here," my assistant announced, appearing at my elbow. "He's in the lobby." I found him standing awkwardly by the reception desk, wearing clothes I'd never seen before. Simple, practical work clothes, his hands rough from months of manual labor. "Nice building," he said gruffly. "Thanks. What brings you here?" He cleared his throat. "I got offered a management position. At the cafe." "Congratulations." I turned it down. I raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because I haven't earned it yet." He met my eyes. "You taught me that. The hard way." "Did I?" 6 months ago, I thought I was above washing dishes. Now I know every job matters. Every person matters. He pulled out an envelope. "I wanted you to have this." Inside was a check. Small, but clearly his entire savings. "What's this for?" "The vacation house. I know it was legally yours, but I want to make it right." I studied the check, then slowly tore it in half. "Keep it. You'll need it more than me." "Zuriel, please, let me fix something." "You want to fix something? Keep working, keep learning, keep remembering what it feels like to start from nothing." I handed him the torn check. "That's worth more than money." His eyes were wet when he looked up. "I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago." "I know, but I needed to hear it when I was struggling, not after I succeeded." Michaela burst in, excitement on her face. "The health department approved the new location. We can start hiring—" "Oh, hi, Dad." "Your sister offered me a job," she told him. "Managing the new store." He smiled, genuinely smiled. "Take it. Learn from her. She's better at business than I ever was." Speaking of business, Brett appeared with a stack of papers. "The mayor wants to meet about that downtown revitalization project, and the Small Business Association wants you to give a keynote speech. Tell them yes to both." I turned back to my father. "I have to go. Actual business meetings to attend." "Of course." He headed for the door, then paused. "Your mother. She'd love to see this place. Tell her to come by sometime, during business hours like any other customer." After he left, Michaela handed me a coffee, made perfectly, just the way I liked it. "You're really not going to make this easy for them, are you?" "They didn't make it easy for me." I took a sip. But at least now they understand why. Brett checked his watch. "Ready for that meeting? Time to show the mayor what a real business empire looks like." I looked around at my growing kingdom. The busy contractors, the gleaming fixtures, the proud logo on the wall. Everything I'd built from scratch, despite every obstacle they'd thrown in my way. "You know what?" I smiled. "I've been ready for this my whole life. They just didn't know it until now. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's success so complete that your doubters have to acknowledge it every single day. One dish, one coffee, one hard lesson at a time." The local business awards ceremony buzzed with excitement as I adjusted my name tag. Zuriel Fernandez, CEO, Dreamweaver Enterprises. Beside me, Michaela fidgeted with her own. Regional Director. "Stop fussing," I whispered. "You've earned your place here." "Did you know Mom and Dad would be here?" she asked, nodding toward the back of the room where our parents sat, dressed in their new, more modest attire. "They bought tickets like everyone else." I smoothed my dress. "That's progress." Brett appeared, grinning. "They're about to announce Business of the Year. Ready for your speech?" "Speech?" Michaela looked confused. "You think it's a coincidence we're sitting at the front table?" I winked. The mayor stepped up to the podium, tapping the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, this year's recipient has transformed our downtown, created hundreds of jobs, and shown us that success comes in many flavors, sometimes literally." Scattered laughter rippled through the crowd. Dreamweaver Enterprises started as a single bakery, defying expectations and conventional wisdom. Today, it encompasses 12 locations, multiple real estate holdings, and a commitment to community development that has revitalized our city center. I stood as my name was called, the applause washing over me. From the corner of my eye, I saw Mom dabbing at tears, Dad sitting straight-backed and proud. "Thank you," I began, reaching into my pocket for my notes. Instead, my fingers found the torn Christmas Eve envelope from that fateful night. I'd carried it with me every day since, a reminder of where I'd started. I set it on the podium. "Success isn't inherited," I said, looking directly at my family. "It's baked from scratch, with equal parts determination and defiance. Sometimes the people who should believe in you don't, and that's okay. It just means you have to believe in yourself twice as hard." Natasha whooped from her table, making everyone laugh. But success without growth, personal growth, is just numbers on a spreadsheet. Real success is watching people change, including yourself. It's seeing your sister trade privilege for purpose. I smiled at Michaela. It's watching your parents learn humility through honest work. It's building something bigger than revenge. Mom's hand found Dad's, squeezing tight. Dreamweaver started as my dream of independence. Now it's a dream of second chances. For downtown, for our employees, for family. Even for those who once tried to write you out of their story. I picked up the torn envelope. This was my disinheritance paper. I kept it to remind myself of rejection. Now I'm keeping it to remind myself of redemption. Not just mine, but everyone's capacity to change when they are willing to do the work. The applause was deafening as I left the stage. Michaela hugged me, whispering, "That wasn't just about business, was it?" "Nothing ever is," I replied. After the ceremony, Mom and Dad approached our table. Dad spoke first, his voice rough. "Your speech? We don't deserve—" "It's not about deserving," I interrupted. "It's about growing. You both did the work. You're still doing it." "We're so proud," Mom said. "Not of what you built, though that's incredible, but of who you've become." "Even without the family legacy?" I couldn't resist asking. "You built your own legacy," Dad replied. "A better one." "Speaking of building," Michaela chimed in, "should we tell them about the community center project?" I nodded. We're converting one of the downtown buildings into a small business incubator and training center, teaching people how to build their dreams from scratch. "Like washing dishes?" Dad asked, a small smile playing at his lips. "Exactly like that." I turned to Mom. "We need experienced retail managers to teach some of the classes. Interested?" Her eyes widened. "You want me to teach others what you've learned, about humility, hard work, starting over?" "I'd be honored," she whispered. Brett appeared with champagne, passing glasses around. "To Dreamweaver's next chapter?" "No," I said, raising my glass. "To new beginnings, earned, not inherited." As we clinked glasses, I caught Natasha's knowing smile from across the room. She'd been there from the start, watching my revenge plot transform into something more meaningful than mere success. "You know," Michaela said softly, "that Christmas Eve was the best thing that ever happened to this family." "How so?" "It broke us down to nothing, made us rebuild, made us real." I looked around at my empire. Not just the buildings and businesses, but the people. My sister, finding purpose in honest work. My parents, learning humility and pride in equal measure. My friends who believed in me when no one else did. "Real is good," I agreed, pulling out my phone to show them the designs for the community center. "Now, who's ready to help others get real too?" Sometimes the sweetest victory isn't improving others wrong. It's in helping them become right.
The text message from my mother was crystal clear. Family meeting, 7 p.m., non-negotiable. I stood at my parents' front door, my hand hovering over the brass knocker, knowing whatever waited inside wouldn't be good. The perfectly manicured lawn and gleaming Mercedes in the driveway screamed success, the kind my family worshipped and I'd apparently failed to achieve. I am Melanie, the black sheep of the Gonzalez family. While my siblings collected degrees and accolades, like trading cards, I chose a different path, one that involved creating things with my hands and building something uniquely mine. The door swung open before I could knock. "You're late," my mother said, her lips pressed into a thin line. Everyone's waiting. I checked my watch, 6:58 p.m. In my family, anything less than 10 minutes early was considered late. The living room fell silent as I entered. My sister Wendy sat primly on the edge of the leather sofa, her lawyer's briefcase by her feet. Louisa, fresh from her hospital shift, still wore her scrubs like a badge of honor. Nathan, my younger brother, didn't even look up from his phone. My father stood by the fireplace, hands clasped behind his back, like a general preparing for battle. "Sit down, Melanie," he commanded, gesturing to the lone armchair facing everyone else. The setup reminded me of those intervention shows on TV. "What's this about?" I asked, remaining standing. Wendy reached into her briefcase and pulled out a document. "We've been discussing the family's future," she said, in her courtroom voice, "and we've come to a decision. A necessary one," my mother added, perching beside Louisa. "For the good of the family." The document made its way into my hands. The legal jargon was dense, but certain phrases jumped out. Formal dissolution of familial ties, relinquishment of inheritance rights, termination of family association. "You're disowning me?" The words came out as a whisper. "It's not personal." Nathan finally looked up. "It's business." "Business," I laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet room. "I'm your daughter, your sister. How is this not personal?" "Your choices reflect poorly on the family name," my father said. "Your little craft hobby." "My business," I corrected. "Making trinkets in your apartment isn't a business," Louisa scoffed. "It's embarrassing. Do you know how it feels when my colleagues ask what my sister does?" "We've given you every opportunity," my mother continued. "The best schools, connections, resources, and you've thrown it all away to play with glue and glitter." I looked down at the document again, my hands steady despite the earthquake in my chest. Years of subtle jabs, disappointed sighs, and backhanded compliments had prepared me for this moment. They'd never understood me, never tried to. "Where do I sign?" My mother blinked, clearly expecting tears or pleading. "Melanie, if you just reconsider your choices." "Where do I sign?" Wendy pointed to the bottom of the page. "Initial here and sign here. There's a notary waiting in the study." 10 minutes later, it was done. I was no longer officially part of the Gonzalez family. The weight of their expectations, their judgment, their disapproval, all of it lifted from my shoulders. "I hope you understand," my father said, as I headed for the door. "This is for the best." I turned back one last time, taking in their faces, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. "You know what's funny? You're so worried about the family name, about success and reputation, but you have no idea what I've actually built. You never bothered to ask." "Melanie," my mother started. "No," I cut her off. "You've made your choice. Now you get to live with it." The door closed behind me with a soft click, far too gentle for the magnitude of what had just happened. My phone buzzed, a notification from my business account. Another major order had come in, pushing my monthly revenue well into 6 figures. Again, I smiled as I walked to my car, thinking about the stack of orders waiting to be filled, the upcoming collaboration with a major retailer, and the feature article being written about my innovative approach to sustainable crafting. They wanted to cut me off? Fine. They'd learned soon enough what they'd thrown away. Success, after all, is the sweetest revenge. As I drove away from the house I'd grown up in, I didn't feel sadness or anger. Instead, I felt something else entirely. Freedom. The freedom to be exactly who I was, without apology or explanation. Family, I realized, isn't about sharing a name or DNA. It's about who believes in you when no one else will. And I had people in my life who did exactly that. They just weren't the ones I was leaving behind. "You did what?" Mara nearly spilled her coffee across my workshop table. 3 days had passed since the disownment, and I'd finally gathered the courage to tell my best friend. "Sign the papers without arguing," I said, carefully applying gold leaf to my latest creation. You should have seen their faces. They expected tears, begging, maybe a dramatic breakdown. "But your inheritance, Mel." The family connections, all of it, just gone? I set down my tools and looked at her directly. What inheritance, a share in a car dealership I never wanted. The privilege of being told I'm a disappointment at every family dinner. Ezra burst through the door, his laptop clutched to his chest like a lifeline. My marketing guru and business partner always had perfect timing. Mel, you need to see this. He spun his laptop around. Our latest collection just got picked up by Style & Home magazine. They're calling you the artisan revolutionizing sustainable home decor. Mara peered at the screen. Holy shit, Mel. These numbers. Is that really how much you're making? That's just last month. Ezra grinned. Wait until they see what we've got planned next. The eco-friendly packaging initiative alone is going to... My phone buzzed, another order notification, then another, and another. What's happening? I asked Ezra. He refreshed his browser. The article just went live. We're trending on social media. The sustainable living community is going crazy over your recycled material techniques. I walked to the wall of shelves, displaying my latest pieces. Handcrafted home decor, made entirely from reclaimed materials. Each piece told a story. Discarded wood, transformed into elegant wall art. Salvaged metal, reformed into striking sculptures. Forgotten glass, reborn as stunning light fixtures. We need to scale up, Ezra said, already typing furiously. I'm getting inquiries from 3 major retailers. They want exclusive collections. Mara squeezed my shoulder. And your family has no idea. They never bothered to look, I said, picking up a piece I'd finished that morning. A delicate wind chime, made from sea glass and driftwood. Too busy being embarrassed by their crafty daughter to notice she built a 6-figure business from scratch. 7 figures actually, Ezra corrected, still typing. After these deals go through. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Is this Melanie Gonzalez? A woman's crisp voice asked. This is Catherine Chen from Business Forward magazine. We're doing a feature on emerging entrepreneurs in the sustainable luxury market. Your name keeps coming up. I caught Ezra's eye. He gave me a thumbs up. I'd love to hear more, I said, keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. We're particularly interested in your journey. Young female entrepreneur, innovative approach to sustainability, rapid growth. Would you be open to an interview? Cover story potential. I thought about my family's faces when they saw me on the cover of a national business magazine. Absolutely. When were you thinking? After setting up the interview, I turned to find both Mara and Ezra staring at me. What? Business Forward, Ezra whispered. Do you know how huge this is? Their features can make or break companies. Mara hugged me tight. This is it, Mel. This is your moment to show them all. I pulled away and picked up my tools again. No, this is my moment to show myself. I've got orders to fill. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I hired 3 assistants to help with production. Ezra expanded our online presence and negotiated deals with retailers. Mara helped me prepare for the Business Forward interview. Tell me again about your inspiration, she said one evening, playing reporter. I held up my latest piece, a chandelier made from broken mirrors and copper wire. I see beauty in broken things, in the pieces others throw away. Everything has potential if you look at it the right way. That's it, she said softly. That's what makes your work special. You're not just making pretty things, you're telling stories of transformation. My phone buzzed with a text from Ezra. Major department store wants to meet. Tomorrow, be ready. I looked around my workshop, once a dusty garage, now a thriving studio. Orders lined the walls. Half-finished pieces waited on workbenches. The air smelled of wood polish and possibility. You know what the best part is? I said to Mara, who was admiring the chandelier. I'm doing exactly what I've always wanted to do. What they called a hobby is now an empire in the making. Speaking of them, Mara hesitated. Have you heard anything? Not a word. I picked up my tools again. But they will. Soon enough, everyone will. The chandelier caught the setting sun, sending fractured light dancing across the walls. Like my life, I thought. broken pieces, creating something unexpectedly beautiful. Time to get back to work, I said, reaching for another piece of salvaged copper. These orders won't fill themselves. There she is. Catherine from Business Forward rushed toward me, her heels clicking against the studio floor. Our cover girl. She thrust the magazine into my hands. My face stared back at me, surrounded by my most intricate pieces. The headline read, "The Queen of Sustainable Luxury: How Melanie Gonzalez Turned Trash into Treasure." The response has been incredible, Catherine gushed. Social media's exploding. 3 major networks want interviews. Ezra burst in, waving his phone. Mel, the website crashed from traffic. We've got wait lists forming for every piece. And that department store deal? They doubled their initial offer. I traced my finger over the magazine cover, still struggling to believe it was real. The article detailed everything. My creative process, business model, revenue growth. Everything except my family's rejection. The Today Show called, Catherine continued. They want you for Monday morning, prime slot. My phone lit up with a text from Wendy. My first contact with family in 2 months. We need to talk. Urgent family matters. I showed the message to Mara, who'd been quietly organizing orders in the corner. Funny how you're suddenly family again, she muttered. Another text arrived, this time from Louisa. Saw the magazine. Why didn't you tell us? Call me ASAP. Ignore them, Ezra said, glancing at my phone. We've got bigger things to focus on. The Singapore collector wants to commission 3 custom pieces, 6 figures each. Catherine cleared her throat. Speaking of figures, Forbes is interested in featuring you in their 30 under 30 list. The notifications kept coming. Nathan, Mom's upset. You should call her. Then my father. We should discuss your recent publicity. Your story's inspiring people, Catherine said, oblivious to my family drama. Young entrepreneur refuses to follow conventional path, proves everyone wrong. It's resonating. Especially the sustainability angle, Ezra added. The video of you collecting materials from demolition sites went viral. People love seeing the transformation process. My phone buzzed again. My mother this time. Family dinner, Sunday, 7 p.m. We have much to discuss. Mara read the message over my shoulder. You're not going, right? I set the phone down and picked up a piece of sea glass, turning it over in my hands. Remember what you said about my work, Mara? About seeing beauty in broken things. Mel, no, they don't deserve. I'm going. I cut her off. But not for the reasons they think. The rest of the week was a whirlwind. The Today Show interview went viral. Orders flooded in faster than we could handle them. I hired 5 more assistants and leased additional workspace. Look at these numbers, Ezra said during our Friday meeting. We've exceeded our annual projection in just 2 months. The sustainable luxury market can't get enough of your work. The waiting list for custom pieces is 6 months long, one of my assistants added. Even with the premium pricing. I nodded, only half listening. Sunday's dinner loomed in my mind. Then my phone lit up with an email that changed everything. Holy shit, I whispered. Ezra looked up. What? The Museum of Modern Art. They want to feature my work in their upcoming exhibition on sustainable art. The studio erupted in cheers. Mara hugged me tight. See? This is what happens when you believe in yourself. When do they want to meet? Ezra asked, already pulling up his calendar. Next week, in New York? I laughed. They're sending a private jet. Sunday arrived too quickly. As I pulled up to my parents' house, I noticed all their cars were already there. The whole family, right on time as usual. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Catherine. Breaking news. Your Business Forward feature just won us Magazine Story of the Year. Congratulations. I smiled, tucking the phone away. Perfect timing. The door opened before I could knock. My mother stood there, looking exactly as she had the night they disowned me. Except now her eyes held something new. Desperation. Melanie, darling. She stepped forward for a hug I didn't return. We've missed you. Behind her, I could see the rest of the family in the living room. Wendy with her briefcase again. Louisa pretending to read something on her phone. Nathan actually looking at me this time. My father still by his beloved fireplace. Have you? I asked, stepping past her into the house. Or did you miss what I represent now? The room fell silent. On the coffee table, I spotted copies of Business Forward. My face stared up at all of us, a testament to everything they'd dismissed. We should talk, my father said, his voice lacking its usual authority. About the future, about family. I sat in the same chair they'd put me in months ago, when they'd decided I wasn't good enough to be part of their family. Yes, I agreed, smoothing my designer dress, paid for with my little craft hobby money. Let's talk about the future. The silence in the living room was thick enough to cut. My mother bustled around, pouring tea nobody asked for, while my father cleared his throat repeatedly. Your work is impressive, Wendy finally said, tapping the magazine cover. The profit margins mentioned in the article are quite remarkable. Remarkable? I raised an eyebrow. I thought it was just a hobby. Playing with glue and glitter. Wasn't that what you called it, Louisa? Louisa shifted uncomfortably in her seat. We may have been hasty in our judgments. Hasty? I took a sip of tea. You disowned me. Had it notarized. About that, my father stepped forward. We've been discussing as a family, and we believe it's time to rectify that unfortunate situation. Unfortunate situation, I repeated. Is that what we're calling it now? Wendy reached for her briefcase, always the lawyer. I've drawn up papers to nullify the previous agreement. We can have it done today. The timing seems convenient, I said, watching their faces. Right after the magazine cover, the TV appearances, the museum exhibition announcement. Museum exhibition? Nathan perked up. Which museum? MoMA, I said casually, enjoying their shocked expressions. They're flying me to New York next week. Private jet. My mother dropped a teacup. It shattered on the hardwood floor, but nobody moved to clean it up. Melanie, my father's voice, took on the tone he used for important business deals. There's something else we need to discuss. The dealership is struggling. I finished for him. I know. I did my research. The shift toward electric vehicles hit you hard. Banks aren't as friendly as they used to be. The color drained from his face. How did you? I have good financial advisors now. They keep me informed about potential opportunities. Then you understand, Wendy jumped in. The family business needs to evolve. Your sustainable approach, your media presence, it could be exactly what we need. I laughed, the sound echoing in the tense room. So that's what this is about. You don't want me back. You want my success to save you. That's not fair, Louisa protested. We're family, are we? I stood up, walking to the fireplace, where family photos still hung. None of them including me. Because 3 months ago, in this very room, you made it very clear that I wasn't family anymore. People make mistakes, my mother said softly. We're trying to make it right. No, I turned to face them. You're trying to save yourselves. The dealership's facing bankruptcy, isn't it, Dad? And Wendy, that partner position you were promised. It fell through when your biggest client left. Louisa's hospital is cutting staff, and Nathan's research funding got pulled. They stared at me, shocked at how much I knew. Like I said, good advisors. We could help each other, my father insisted. Pool our resources. The Gonzalez name still means something in this city. My name means something, I corrected him. My work means something. And I did that without your help. Actually, I did it despite your active discouragement. My phone buzzed, a text from Ezra. Singapore collector doubled their offer. Again, says price is no object. I have a meeting, I said, gathering my things, with people who believed in me before the magazine covers and TV spots. Melanie, please. My mother grabbed my arm. We're sorry. We were wrong. What more can we say? I gently removed her hand. You know what's interesting about my work? I take broken things that people throw away and turn them into something valuable. But some things, once broken, can't be fixed. Some relationships, once shattered, stay that way. You're really going to hold a grudge? Nathan asked. After we've apologized. Apologized. I walked to the door. All I've heard are business propositions and convenient excuses. Not one of you has actually said you're proud of what I've built, or that you were wrong about my choices. You just want what I have now. That's not true. Wendy started. Save it. I cut her off. Keep your legal papers and your business proposals. I'm doing fine on my own. At the door, I turned back one last time. You know what the worst part is? If you'd supported me from the beginning, I would have helped you without hesitation. Family meant everything to me, but you taught me something valuable when you disowned me. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born into. I walked out, leaving them with their broken teacup and shattered pride. My phone buzzed again. Mara this time. How'd it go? Exactly as expected, I texted back. They want what I have, not who I am. Their loss, she replied. Studios packed with orders. Want to come help? Pizza's on me. I smiled, starting my car. On my way. Family dinner's overrated anyway. The sun was setting as I drove away, casting long shadows behind me. Like the pieces I worked with, I'd been discarded, but found my own way to shine. Some might call it karma. I called it justice. The text came 3 days later. Dinner tonight, please. Dad. I showed it to Ezra during our morning meeting. Think he'll actually say please in person. Don't go, he said, not looking up from his laptop. We've got the MoMA meeting tomorrow, and the Singapore contracts need reviewing. I'm going. I picked up a piece of twisted metal, considering its potential. But this time, I choose the place. I texted back, La Maison, 8 p.m. I'll make reservations. The response was immediate. That's a bit expensive. I'm buying. I replied. Bring Mom. La Maison was the kind of restaurant my parents used to brag about going to before the dealership started struggling. I arrived early, wearing a designer dress that cost more than my old monthly rent. They walked in right on time, looking uncomfortable. The maitre d' recognized me immediately. Ms. Gonzalez, your usual table is ready. The chef sends his regards and asks if you'd like the special tasting menu he's prepared. My parents' eyes widened. I smiled. That would be lovely, Thomas. Thank you. Once seated, my father cleared his throat. Your usual table. I invest in local businesses, I said, sipping my water. This place included. The chef does amazing things with sustainable ingredients. My mother fidgeted with her napkin. Melanie, about Sunday. Let's order first. I cut her off as the sommelier approached. The 82 Bordeaux, please. The whole bottle. My father's face paled. I knew he recognized the 4-figure wine. Now, I said, after our glasses were filled. What's so urgent? They exchanged glances before my father spoke. The bank called in our loans, all of them. We have 30 days to either refinance or sell the dealership. And my mother jumped in. We've explored every option. Nobody's lending in this market, not to car dealerships, especially not to dealerships without a clear transition plan to electric vehicles, I added. The first course arrived, tiny works of art on pristine plates. My parents barely touched theirs. We need help, my father said finally. The words seemed to physically pain him. Your help. Financial help, I clarified. Not family reconciliation. Both, my mother insisted. We were wrong, Melanie, so wrong. Seeing what you've built, what you've become, what I've become. I set down my fork. I'm exactly who I was 3 months ago. The only difference is now I have money and influence. The second course arrived. My father still hadn't touched his first. We're not just asking for money, he said. We want to merge the businesses. Your vision, your sustainable approach, it could revolutionize the dealership. Electric vehicles, eco-friendly practices, and save the family name, I finished. That's what this is really about, isn't it? My mother reached for my hand. I let her take it, watching her face. We're losing everything, Melanie. The house, the business, our reputation. Like I lost my family. She withdrew her hand. The main course arrived, perfectly cooked Wagyu beef. The chef stopped by personally to check on us. Everything is perfect, Antonio, I assured him. The new sustainable menu is brilliant. After he left, my father leaned forward. How much? Excuse me? To save the dealership, how much do you want? I laughed, the sound drawing glances from nearby tables. You still don't get it. This isn't about money. It never was. Then what do you want? He demanded, frustration breaking through his carefully maintained facade. I wanted you to love me for who I am, I said quietly. I wanted you to be proud of me before the magazine covers and TV spots. I wanted a family who saw my value without a dollar sign attached to it. The dessert arrived, a spectacular creation of spun sugar and gold leaf. My mother started crying silently. We can change, she whispered. We can be better. I signaled for the check. Maybe you can. But here's the thing. I don't need you to anymore. I don't need your approval, your connections, or your name. I built something beautiful out of what you threw away. The bill came. I handed over my black card without looking at the total. So that's it? My father asked. You'll let the family business die? Let us lose everything? I stood up, smoothing my dress. You taught me an important lesson when you disowned me. Business is business. It's not personal. Melanie, please, my mother started. I have an early flight to New York tomorrow. I cut her off. The museum's sending a car at 6. Enjoy the rest of your dinner. It's already paid for. I walked out of La Maison, leaving them with their cold food and colder reality. My phone buzzed, Mara asking how it went. They finally said please. I texted back. Too bad it was for the wrong reasons. The night air was cool on my face as I headed home. Tomorrow I'd be discussing my art in one of the world's premier museums. Tonight, I'd left my parents with the bill they never saw coming. The true cost of throwing away family for the sake of appearances. They offered what? Mara nearly fell off her chair in my New York hotel suite. 20 million, I repeated, still staring at the contract MoMA's lawyers had presented for a permanent installation and consulting role on their sustainable art initiative. Holy shit, Ezra whispered, pacing the room. That's not including the Singapore deals or the retail contracts. My phone buzzed. Wendy again. Dad's meeting with bankruptcy lawyers tomorrow. Please call. I ignored it, focusing on the Manhattan skyline outside my window. The museum's private car would arrive in an hour for the final contract signing. Your family's blowing up my phone too, Mara said. Your sister Louisa came by the studio yesterday. What did she want? To explain their side. Said they're about to lose the house. Nathan's moving back in with them since his research position got cut. Another text from my mother. Please come home. We need to talk as a family. Ezra stopped pacing. You know what's ironic? If they hadn't disowned you, your business wouldn't have grown this fast. You channeled all that hurt into your work. Speaking of work, Mara picked up a piece from my latest collection. A phoenix rising from twisted metal and broken glass. This is different, darker. It's for the museum installation, I said. I'm calling it Family Ties. My phone rang. Dad. I let it go to voicemail. You could save them, Ezra said quietly. 20 million would clear their debts, with plenty left over. I could, I agreed. But should I? Mara stood up, walking to the phoenix sculpture. Remember what you told me when you started this, about seeing beauty in broken things? This is different. Is it? She turned the piece, watching light play through the glass. Maybe this is your chance to transform something broken into something beautiful. My phone buzzed again. A text from Nathan. They're auctioning off Mom's jewelry tomorrow, even her wedding ring. They made their choice, I said. But my voice wavered. Ezra sat down, pulling up something on his laptop. Look at this. I've been running numbers. You could buy the dealership for pennies on the dollar right now. Transform it into an electric vehicle showroom. Your sustainable brand, plus their existing infrastructure. It could work, Mara added. But only if you want it to. A knock at the door interrupted us. A courier, with a thick envelope. Inside was a letter from my father, handwritten. Melanie, I've written this letter 100 times in my head. Nothing sounds right. Nothing can excuse what we did. You were always the strongest of us, the most genuine. We were too blind to see it. I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for a chance to be the father I should have been, to be the family you deserved. We're losing everything, but that's not why I'm writing. We lost what mattered most the day we signed those papers. We lost you. I'm proud of you. Not because of your success, but because of who you are, who you've always been. Love, Dad. The paper shook in my hands. Mel? Mara asked softly. He said he's proud of me, I whispered. For the first time in my life. Ezra closed his laptop. The museum contract doesn't need to be signed today. We could postpone. My phone buzzed one final time. A text from Louisa. Mom's in the hospital. Stress and exhaustion. She keeps asking for you. I looked at the Phoenix sculpture, its broken pieces, forming something new, something stronger. Call the car, I said. We're making a stop before the museum. Where? Mara asked, though her smile suggested she already knew. The bank. I need to make some arrangements. And then, Ezra was already dialing. I picked up the Phoenix, carefully wrapping it. Then we're going to save a family, but on my terms. What are you thinking? Mara asked. A new company, sustainable luxury vehicles, electric showrooms with my art installations, a complete reinvention of what the family business means. With you in charge, Ezra added. With me in charge, I agreed. They want to be family again. Fine, but we do it my way. No more hiding who I am. No more shame about being different. The prodigal daughter returns, Mara smiled, but this time, she's the one with the power. I looked at my father's letter again. Sometimes the things we break can be rebuilt stronger, but first, everyone has to admit they're broken. The car arrived as I finished packing the Phoenix. It seemed fitting. This piece about resurrection would now witness one. Ready? Mara asked. I nodded, tucking the letter into my pocket. Time to show them what family really means and what it costs. We headed down to the waiting car, the Phoenix carefully cradled in my arms. Its glass wings caught the sunlight, sending fragments of light dancing across the walls, broken pieces coming together to create something unexpected, something beautiful, just like family should be. The hospital waiting room fell silent as I walked in, the Phoenix sculpture still in my arms. My siblings looked up from their phones, their faces a mix of surprise and relief. You came, Wendy said, standing. Where is she? I asked. Room 304. Louisa answered. Dad's with her. Nathan stepped forward. The doctors say it's mostly exhaustion. And, save it, I cut him off. We're having a family meeting, now. Conference room down the hall. All of you. They exchanged glances, but followed me. The Phoenix found its temporary home on the conference room table, its shadows dancing across their tired faces. Before we see Mom, I said, pulling out a stack of papers, we're going to get some things straight. Is that? Wendy started, recognizing legal documents. A new company structure? Yes. I laid out the papers. The dealership gets restructured into Phoenix Electric, sustainable luxury vehicles. I'll clear the debts, invest in electric infrastructure, and integrate my art installations into the showrooms. Their eyes widened at the numbers. But, I continued, there are conditions. Of course there are, Nathan muttered. First, I'm CEO, non-negotiable. Dad becomes chairman emeritus, advisory role only. Each of you gets shares based on your contribution to the new vision, not family ties. Wendy reached for the papers. I pulled them back. I'm not finished. Second condition. The old family dynamics die today. No more judgment about life choices. No more forcing people into boxes they don't fit in. Is this revenge? Louisa asked quietly. No. I picked up the Phoenix. It's resurrection. But first, you need to understand what you did. I faced each of them. Wendy, you drafted the papers to disown me. Louisa, you mocked my little hobby every chance you got. Nathan, you couldn't even look at me that night. Each of you chose status over sister. The room fell silent, except for the hum of fluorescent lights. We were wrong, Wendy whispered. Say it louder. We were wrong. She stood up, tears in her eyes. I was wrong. I let my own insecurities about success blind me. You built something amazing while I chased other people's definitions of achievement. Louisa joined her. I was jealous. You had the courage to follow your passion while I followed expectations. I'm so sorry, Mel. Nathan remained seated. I was a coward, he said simply. I knew they were wrong about you, but I stayed quiet. It was easier. I set the Phoenix down. That's a start. Now, about Mom and Dad. The door opened. My father stood there, looking older than I'd ever seen him. I heard everything, he said. The nurses said you were here, and I... He trailed off, staring at the Phoenix. Dad, no. He held up his hand. My turn. He walked to the sculpture, touching it gently. This is beautiful, like everything you create. I was too proud, too stuck in my ways to see it. To see you. The company, Wendy started. Isn't what matters, he cut her off. Your mother's upstairs wondering if she'll ever see her daughter again. Not because of the money or the business, but because we threw away our child for nothing. I felt tears threatening, but held them back. Not nothing. You threw me away for appearances, for status, for the family name. And look where that got us. He gestured to the hospital walls. Our name means nothing now, but you built something real, something meaningful. He picked up the papers, reading quickly. These terms, they're more than fair, more than we deserve. Dad, you'd be giving up control, Nathan pointed out. Good, he said firmly. Look what my control did to this family. He turned to me. The company is yours. The family, that's up to you. I took a deep breath. Mom first. Then we sign. We rode the elevator in silence. Outside room 304, I stopped them. One more thing, I said. That disownment paper, I want it destroyed. Publicly, at the first board meeting of Phoenix Electric. Done, they said in unison. My mother was awake, looking small in the hospital bed. When she saw me, she started crying. My baby, she reached out. I'm so sorry, so sorry. I took her hand, feeling its trembles. I know, Mom, I know. We can't take it back, she said through tears. But can we try again, please? I looked around at my family, broken, humbled, but here. Like the materials I worked with, sometimes the most damaged pieces could be transformed into something stronger. Yes, I said, squeezing her hand. But this time, we do it right. All of us. The Phoenix on the conference room table caught the setting sun, sending ribbons of light through the hospital window. Sometimes, I thought, resurrection comes at a price, but if everyone's willing to pay it, the result can be beautiful. The Phoenix Electric showroom gleamed under spotlight and camera flashes. My latest installation, a massive chandelier made from recycled car parts, dominated the entrance. Reporters jostled for position as my father cut the ribbon. And with that, he announced, "We welcome you to the future of sustainable luxury." Mara appeared at my elbow. Channel 7 wants an interview with the CEO. The CEO is busy admiring her work. I smiled, watching potential customers stream in. Ezra rushed over with his tablet. Pre-orders are insane. The sustainable luxury market is eating this up. Your art installations are trending on every platform. My mother touched my arm gently, a new habit she'd developed, as if making sure I was real. Melanie, darling, the governor's asking about commissioning a piece for the State House. Tell him to call my assistant. I winked. I'm very exclusive these days. Across the showroom, Wendy was explaining our innovative financing programs to a group of investors. Louisa had taken a part-time position, heading our medical transport division. Even Nathan had found his place, leading our research partnership with local universities. Ms. Gonzalez, a reporter, pushed forward. How does it feel to revolutionize a traditional family business? Before I could answer, my father stepped in. My daughter didn't just revolutionize the business, he said proudly. She saved it by being exactly who she always was. The reporter's eyebrows shot up. Even after the family drama, our sources say there was quite a rift. I met my father's eyes. Sometimes rifts create space for new foundations. Speaking of foundations, Ezra interrupted. Tablet extended. The Sustainable Arts Foundation called. They want you to head their board. My mother squeezed my hand. Go, she whispered. We can handle things here. I shook my head. Family first, business second. That's our new motto, remember. The showroom continued filling with people, admiring both the vehicles and the art. Each piece told a story of transformation, from the chandelier above to the small phoenix sculpture still perched on my desk. Mel, Mara called out, your sister's looking for you. Something about the community outreach program? I found Louisa in the conference room, surrounded by blueprints. We got approved, she announced. The Youth Art Center can break ground next month. In the old dealership lot? Where else? She smiled. From car sales to creating opportunities, very on brand for the new US. Nathan poked his head in. Mom's getting emotional again. Dad's trying to handle it, but I followed him to find our mother wiping tears, surrounded by concerned guests. Mom, I touched her shoulder. You okay? She pulled me into a hug. I just never imagined all of this. You've made something so beautiful, inside and out. We made it, I corrected her. Once we stopped breaking things and started fixing them. Wendy joined us, champagne in hand. To fixing things, she raised her glass. And to my sister, who taught us that sometimes the most valuable things are the ones we almost throw away. The evening wound down. As the last guests left, my family gathered under the chandelier. Its shadows danced across our faces, broken pieces creating patterns none of us could have predicted. The disownment papers, my father said suddenly. We never did destroy them publicly. I walked to my office, returning with a document that had changed everything. Actually, I said, I had other plans for these. I handed pieces to each family member. Together, we walked to the art installation in the center of the showroom. A massive glass furnace, part of my live demonstration space. The phoenix rises, I said, opening the furnace door. But first, the old has to burn. One by one, we fed the papers into the flames. As they burned, I reached for the glass-blowing tools. Watch, I told them, gathering the molten glass mixed with the paper's ashes. This is how you make beauty from pain. Hours later, a new piece sat cooling. A small family of glass figures, their cores containing the ashes of our worst moment, transformed into something new. It's us, my mother whispered. It's who we are now, I corrected. Not perfect, not unbroken, but stronger where we were broken. Ezra and Mara found us still there, admiring the piece. Ready to call it a night, boss? Ezra asked. I looked at my family, really looked at them. At my father's proud smile, my mother's gentle touch, my siblings' relaxed poses. At how far we'd come from that night, they'd tried to disown me. Actually, I said, I think we're just getting started. The chandelier above caught the last light of day, sending fragments of rainbow across the showroom floor. Like family, like art, like life itself, sometimes the most beautiful things come from knowing exactly which pieces to keep, which to transform, and which to let go. Come on, I told them all. Let's go home. And this time, I knew exactly what that meant.
Money has a way of revealing truths people try to hide. I learned this standing outside my father's study, hearing him discuss my future, or rather the lack of one he'd planned for me. We can't afford both, Linda. Emily's law school has to take priority. Sarah will have to make do with the diner job. My fingers dug into the doorframe as I listened. 22 years of being the family afterthought crystallized in that moment. The golden child, Emily, would get her shot at becoming a prestigious attorney while I'd be slinging hash browns at Pete's diner. But Robert, we promised both girls we'd help with their education. My mother's voice wavered, weak as always. Emily has real potential, Sarah. Sarah just needs to be practical. I stepped back from the door, my chest tight with something between rage and vindication. All those years of telling myself I was imagining things, that my parents couldn't possibly favour Emily so blatantly, gone in an instant. The house felt suffocating. I grabbed my keys and jacket, needing to escape before I did something stupid like confront them right then. But fate had other plans. "Sarah, where are you going?" Emily appeared at the top of the stairs, perfect as always in her designer outfit. "Mum's making dinner. Family night, remember?" I almost laughed. Family night? What a joke. "Not feeling well," I managed, heading for the door. "Wait." Emily descended the stairs, concern etched on her face. "Is everything okay? You look upset." "Everything's fine, just like always, perfect actually, just like you." She flinched at my tone. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just like my future, apparently." "Sarah?" The door slammed behind me with satisfying force. I made it halfway down the driveway before my father's voice boomed from the porch. "Young lady, get back here right now." I turned, seeing him silhouetted in the doorway, my mother and Emily hovering anxiously behind him. 22 years of swallowed words rose in my throat. Why? So you can tell me to my face that I'm not worth investing in? That Emily's the only one who deserves a future? His face darkened. "You were eavesdropping." "Damn right I was. And I'm glad I did. Finally got some honesty around here." "Sarah, please." My mother stepped forward. "We can discuss this." "Discuss what?" "How you've spent years funneling everything to Emily while telling me to be practical, to lower my expectations, to settle." Emily's face had gone pale. "That's not fair." "Life isn't fair, sis. But you wouldn't know about that, would you?" My father's voice turned cold. "That's enough. You're being childish and ungrateful." "Ungrateful?" I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. "For what? The lifetime of being second best? The constant comparisons? Or maybe I should be grateful for the diner job you've so generously planned for my future. If you'd shown half the dedication Emily has, I got better grades than she did. I worked 2 jobs through high school while she went to dance lessons and tennis camp. I did everything right, and it still wasn't enough." Silence fell. My mother was crying now. Emily looked stricken. And my father just looked disappointed, as usual. "If that's how you feel," he said finally, "perhaps you should leave until you've calmed down and can be reasonable." "Don't worry," I said, backing away. "I'm done being reasonable, I'm done being practical, and I'm done being the family disappointment." I got in my car, hands shaking as I turned the key. Through the windshield, I could see them still standing there. The perfect family tableau, minus the inconvenient second daughter who'd finally stopped playing her assigned role. As I drove away, one thought crystallized in my mind: I was going to prove them wrong. And when I did, they'd regret every moment they'd spent underestimating me. I ended up at Aunt Clara's house that night, my hands still shaking as I clutched a cup of chamomile tea. Her Victorian home had always been my sanctuary, filled with antiques and the lingering scent of lavender. Tonight, it felt like my last refuge. "Your father called," Aunt Clara said, settling into her worn leather armchair. "He seems to think you're being unreasonable." "Of course he does." The tea burned my throat. "Did he mention the part where they've saved nothing for my education? Or how they expect me to spend my life serving pancakes while Emily becomes a lawyer?" Aunt Clara's eyes narrowed. "No, he conveniently left that out." A knock at the door made me jump. Aunt Clara touched my shoulder as she passed, her grip surprisingly strong for a woman of 70. I heard murmured voices, then my mother's distinctive pleading tone. "Sarah, please, we need to talk." I set down my cup with enough force to splash tea onto the antique coffee table. "There's nothing to talk about." My mother appeared in the doorway, looking smaller than usual. "Your father didn't mean—" "Yes, he did." I stood up. "He meant every word. He always has." "You're both upset. If we could just sit down as a family." "We're not a family. We're Emily's support system, and I'm just the backup plan that never quite measured up." Aunt Clara returned, her face set in lines I recognized from childhood, the expression she wore when she was about to shake things up. "Linda," she said, "sit down. We need to discuss some things." My mother perched on the edge of the sofa, twisting her wedding ring. "Clara, this is between us and Sarah." "No, it's not." Aunt Clara opened a drawer in her desk, pulling out a thick envelope. "Sarah, I've been waiting for the right moment to give you this. I suppose that moment is now." The envelope felt heavy in my hands. Inside was a bank statement showing an account in my name, with a balance that made my eyes widen. "I started saving for both you girls when you were born," Aunt Clara said. "Your parents knew about Emily's fund, but I kept yours separate. I had a feeling you might need it more." My mother's face went pale. "Clara, you had no right." "I had every right. I've watched for years as you and Robert poured everything into Emily while Sarah fought for scraps of attention. Well, now she has options." The numbers on the statement blurred as tears filled my eyes. College tuition, a future, freedom. "You can't do this," my mother whispered. "I already have." Aunt Clara's voice was steel wrapped in silk. "Sarah, the money is yours. No strings attached. You can use it for college, start a business, whatever you choose." My mother stood abruptly. "Robert will hear about this." "Good," Aunt Clara replied. "Tell him his sister sees exactly what he's done to his daughters. Both of them." After my mother left, slamming the door behind her, I sat in silence, staring at the statement. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I finally asked. "I wanted to see if they'd do the right thing on their own." Aunt Clara sighed. "I should have known better. Emily's fund is separate and safe. This isn't about punishing her, Sarah. It's about giving you the chance you deserve." I thought about Emily, golden child Emily, who'd never had to wonder if she was enough. "They'll try to make me share it with her." "They can try." Aunt Clara's smile was sharp. "But the account is in your name only. I made sure of that." Looking at her, I saw the steel beneath her gentle exterior. She'd been playing the long game, watching and waiting, preparing for this moment. "What do I do now?" I asked. "Whatever you want. That's the beauty of it." She leaned forward. "But might I suggest starting with that business degree you've always dreamed about?" For the first time since overhearing my father's words, I felt something like hope, but mixed with it was something darker, a determination to show them exactly what their practical daughter could do. "They'll never forgive you for this," I said. Aunt Clara's laugh was dry as autumn leaves. "My dear, at my age, forgiveness is far less interesting than justice. Now, shall we look at college applications?" I smiled, feeling the weight of the envelope in my hands. It wasn't just money, it was ammunition. And I intended to use every bullet. 3 months into my first semester at business school, Aunt Clara called with news that made my coffee go cold. Emily's perfect life was imploding, and for once I had a front row seat to the disaster. "Mark was arrested this morning," Aunt Clara said, her voice crackling through the phone. "Securities fraud. It's all over the local news." I switched to speaker and pulled up the news site. There he was, Mark Johnson, Emily's boyfriend of 2 years, being led out of his investment firm in handcuffs. The golden boy who'd charmed our parents at every family dinner was now accused of running a Ponzi scheme that had cost his clients millions. "Emily must be devastated," I said, surprised to find I meant it. "That's not all." Aunt Clara paused. "She knew Sarah. She worked in the firm's legal department. They're investigating her involvement." The satisfaction I'd expected to feel didn't come. Instead, my stomach twisted. "How bad is it?" "Your father's firm is distancing itself. They've put her on indefinite leave. Your parents—" Another pause. "They're selling the lake house to cover her legal fees." The lake house? The same one they'd refused to mortgage for my education. My phone buzzed with another call, Emily's number. I declined it, watching as it immediately lit up again. "She's been trying to reach you," Aunt Clara said. "I'm not ready to talk to her." Sometimes people surprise us, Sarah, even the ones who've hurt us most. I ended the call and sat in silence, watching Emily's name flash on my screen again and again. Finally, I picked up. Sarah? Her voice was raw, nothing like her usual polished tones. I need your help. That's new. I deserve that. She took a shuddering breath. But please just listen. I can't talk to Mom and Dad about this. They wouldn't understand. Understand what? That their perfect daughter isn't so perfect? That I knew what Mark was doing, and I looked the other way. The words tumbled out. I found discrepancies in the paperwork months ago. He convinced me it was just aggressive investment strategy, that everyone did it. I wanted to believe him. Why are you telling me this? Because you're the only one who won't be shocked that I failed. Her laugh was bitter. You've been expecting it all along, haven't you? I thought about all the times I'd wished for this, for Emily to fall, for our parents to see her flaws. The reality felt hollow. The investigators, she continued, they're offering a deal. If I testify against Mark, they'll grant me immunity. But Mom and Dad, they keep talking about loyalty, about standing by him. They don't understand what he really is. And what's that? A monster in an expensive suit, her voice cracked. Just like I was a fraud in designer clothes, pretending to be something I'm not. I closed my eyes, remembering all the perfect family photos. Emily always front and center, me relegated to the edges. Why should I help you? Because you're smarter than me, Sarah. You always were. You saw through everything. Our parents, their expectations, this whole facade. I need that clarity now. You want my advice? Take the deal. Burn it all down. Silence stretched between us. Then, will you come with me to the prosecutor's office? I thought about my morning class, the midterm I should be studying for. When? Tomorrow at 9. She hesitated. I know I don't deserve your help. No, you don't. I cut her off. But I'll be there. Not for you. For the truth. After we hung up, I sat staring at my reflection in the darkened window. The sister who'd always lived in Emily's shadow was now the one she turned to for strength. The irony wasn't lost on me. My phone lit up with a text from our father. Emily needs her family united right now. Whatever issues you have with us need to wait. I typed back 4 words. I'll handle it myself. Just like I always had. Tomorrow I'd watch Emily dismantle her perfect life piece by piece. Part of me would enjoy it. I wasn't saint enough to pretend otherwise. But another part recognized something familiar in her voice, the sound of someone realizing their whole life had been built on shadows and lies. I opened my laptop and began researching securities fraud cases. If Emily was going to burn it all down, I'd make sure she did it right. After all, revenge is a dish best served with impeccable legal documentation. The Dean's List notification arrived the same morning as Emily's sentencing. I stared at both messages on my phone, wondering if this was Karma's idea of poetry. Top of my class in business school while my sister faced 18 months of probation and mandatory community service. My father's name lit up my screen. I hadn't spoken to him since the prosecutor's office, but I answered anyway. Your mother and I are having dinner at Lorenzo's tonight, he said, skipping any greeting. We need to discuss Emily's situation. I have exams. This is family, Sarah. More important than any test. I watched students stream past my dorm window, heading to class. Funny how family wasn't more important than Emily's law school when it came to my education. That's not fair. Actually, it's exactly fair. Emily made her choices. She can deal with the consequences. She's lost everything, he said, his voice cracking. Her career, her reputation. And you're still more worried about her than proud of me. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Silence stretched between us. Then, what do you mean? I made Dean's List, first semester of business school, not that you asked. More silence. I could almost see him processing this information, trying to fit it into his worldview where Emily was the achiever and I was the practical one. That's wonderful, Sarah. But right now, Emily needs help. Of course, I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. You know what? I have to go. Good luck with dinner. I ended the call and opened my laptop, pulling up the business proposal I'd been working on. Greg Matthews, the restaurant chain owner who'd given me my first job, had mentioned an internship opportunity. My proposal was due tomorrow. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Emily stood there, looking smaller in jeans and a plain sweater. No more designer labels. "Aunt Clara told me about Dean's list," she said. "Congratulations." I left the door open, but returned to my desk. "Thanks," she hovered in the doorway. "Mum and Dad don't get it, do they? How hard you've worked." "They don't want to get it. It doesn't fit their narrative." I didn't either. She stepped inside, closing the door. I believed what they believed, that I was the successful one, the one with potential. "But you?" She picked up one of my textbooks. "You're going to surpass everything they ever imagined for me." "Is that why you're here? To acknowledge my potential?" "No." She set the book down. "I'm here because Dad called. They're planning to ask you for money tonight for my legal fees." The room seemed to tilt slightly. "What?" "The lake house sale fell through. They're desperate." She wrapped her arms around herself. "I told them not to ask you, but they won't listen. They still think they can fix everything for me." I turned back to my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. "And what do you think?" "I think it's time I fix things myself." She moved toward the door. "I got a job. Nothing special. Administrative work at a small firm, but it's honest work." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you were right. About everything. And I wanted you to know that, before they try to drag you back into their version of reality tonight." After she left, I sat staring at my business proposal. The internship would be demanding. 60-hour weeks, intense training, no room for family drama. Exactly what I needed. I opened my phone and typed a message to my father. "Can't make dinner. Deadline for an opportunity I can't miss. Emily knows how to reach me if she needs to." Then I turned back to my proposal, adding a final section about navigating complex business relationships and maintaining professional boundaries. Greg Matthews would appreciate the irony, even if he never knew the full story. My phone buzzed with responses from my parents, but I didn't read them. Instead, I focused on my work, letting their messages pile up like the years of expectations I was finally learning to ignore. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone else's dreams. Sometimes it's about building your own, brick by brick, while they watch from the sidelines, finally understanding what they failed to see. Life has a twisted sense of humor. I discovered this standing outside Pete's diner, watching Emily tie on the same apron our father had once intended for me. Her hands shook as she struggled with the strings, her manicured nails a stark contrast against the worn fabric. Greg Matthews stood beside me, his presence a reminder of why we were here. "Your sister starts training today?" "Apparently." I checked my watch. "We should head inside. The investment meeting." "Can wait 5 minutes." He studied Emily through the window. "Interesting choice, her working here." "Desperate times." I adjusted my blazer, the fabric smooth and expensive against my skin. "It's the only place that would hire her with her record." The bell chimed as we entered. Emily's head snapped up, her eyes widening at my business attire. I pretended not to notice, leading Greg to our usual booth. "Sarah." Emily approached, notepad trembling slightly. "I didn't know you were coming in today." "Monthly investment meeting with Greg, we always have it here." I kept my voice neutral. "Coffee black, Greg." "The same." He watched Emily hurry away. "You didn't warn her?" "Should I have?" The door chimed again. Our parents walked in, stopping short when they saw me. Of course they'd come to support Emily's first day. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Sarah?" My mother stepped forward. "We didn't expect—" "Clearly." I turned to Greg. "The projection reports show a 30% increase in revenue since implementing your new system." My father approached our table, his presence casting a shadow over our papers. "You look well, Sarah. The business world suits you." "Dad." Emily returned with our coffee, nearly spilling it. "It's fine, Emily." I pulled out my laptop. "They're here for you, not me. Greg and I have work to discuss." "Actually," my father cleared his throat, "we hope to speak with both of you about the family trust." The laptop screen blurred slightly. "What trust?" "Your grandfather's." He glanced at Greg. Perhaps we could discuss this privately. Greg's my business partner. Anything you need to say, you can say in front of him. My mother touched Emily's arm. Sweetheart, maybe you should take your break now. The trust, my father continued, was meant to be split between you girls, but with Emily's legal fees and the conditions of her probation, the pieces clicked into place. You want my half. We want to protect your sister's future. Greg set down his coffee cup with deliberate care. Robert, perhaps this isn't the best time. When is the best time? My voice cut through the diner's morning chatter. When Emily needs more money? When you've run out of ways to prop up her mistakes? Sarah, my mother pleaded, she's trying to rebuild. By taking my inheritance, after everything? I stood, gathering my papers. Greg, we should continue this at the office. Sarah, please. Emily stepped forward, still clutching her notepad. I didn't know they were going to do this. I told them not to. Save it. I met her eyes. You know what's funny? Dad always said I should work here because it was practical, because it was all I could hope for. Now look at us. My father's face darkened. That's enough. No, it's not enough. I turned to Greg. You know why I work so hard? Why I've doubled our profits in 6 months? Because they taught me that nothing would ever be handed to me. And they were right. The diner had gone quiet, other customers pretending not to watch the drama unfolding. Keep the trust, I said, gathering my things. Consider it payment for showing me exactly who I could become by being nothing like any of you. Greg followed me out, waiting until we reached the car to speak. That was quite a scene. I apologize. It won't affect our business. Sarah. He touched my shoulder. I'm promoting you to regional manager. You've earned it, and clearly you need to get as far from this town as possible. I gripped my laptop, knuckles white. Through the diner window, I could see Emily wiping tables while our parents hovered nearby, still trying to fix her life while mine expanded beyond their reach. When do I start? How fast can you pack? I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting away. 6 months into my role as regional manager, Aunt Clara died. The news came via text from Emily, of all people. 3 words that shattered my carefully constructed new life. Aunt Clara's gone. I stood in my office overlooking the Chicago skyline, my reflection ghostly in the window. The quarterly reports I'd been reviewing blurred into meaningless shapes. My phone buzzed again. Emily. The funeral's Saturday. She left something for you. I booked the first flight home, arriving to find my parents' car already in Aunt Clara's driveway. Of course they'd be here, probably already dividing up her possessions like they'd tried to divide my inheritance. The key was still under the ceramic frog where she'd always kept it. Inside, voices drifted from her study. We have to tell her, my mother was saying, before she finds out some other way. Tell me what? I stepped into the doorway. They jumped, guilty faces turning toward me. Emily sat in Aunt Clara's chair, holding a familiar envelope. Sarah, my father stepped forward. We didn't expect you so soon. Clearly. I noticed the open safe behind the desk, papers scattered across the surface. What are you doing? Emily held up the envelope. Aunt Clara left letters. And recordings. And she recorded everything, my mother whispered. All our conversations about you and Emily, about the college fund, about how you planned to use me as Emily's backup plan. The words tasted bitter. I already knew that. No. Emily's voice cracked, about how they planned to use both of us, how they manipulated everything, played us against each other. Even Aunt Clara's money was part of their plan. The room tilted slightly. What? My father reached for me. Sarah, we can explain. Don't touch me. I snatched the envelope from Emily. Inside was a USB drive and a letter in Aunt Clara's elegant handwriting. My dearest Sarah, it began. By now you've discovered that your parents' manipulation runs deeper than you imagined. The money I gave you wasn't just savings. It was evidence. Every transaction, every conversation recorded. Your father's firm has been embezzling funds for years, using both you and Emily as unwitting covers. The letter dropped from my trembling hands. You used us. Both of us. We were trying to protect the family, my father said. The firm was failing. So you set Emily up with Mark, knowing he was running a Ponzi scheme. Let her take the fall while you cleaned up the evidence. Emily made a small, broken sound. They knew. All along they knew what Mark was doing. And me? I turned to my mother. Was anything real? Or was I just another piece in your game? We're still your parents, she pleaded. Everything we did was for the family. I laughed, the sound harsh and foreign. No, it was for you. For your reputation, your lifestyle, your precious image. My phone buzzed. Greg Matthews calling, probably wondering why his regional manager had suddenly flown cross-country without explanation. Sarah, Emily stood up. Aunt Clara left something else, evidence that could expose everything. She wanted us to decide together what to do with it. I stared at my sister, seeing not the golden child who'd had everything handed to her, but another victim of our parents' schemes. You knew, I said to Emily. About the recordings. That's why you've been reaching out. She nodded. Aunt Clara told me last month she wanted us to know the truth before she couldn't tell us herself. My phone buzzed again. Greg's name flashed on the screen, a reminder of the life I'd built, the success I'd achieved thinking it was all to prove my parents wrong. But they'd known. They'd planned it all. Probably counting on my drive to succeed, on Emily's fall from grace, on our predictable reactions to their careful manipulations. Sarah, Emily's voice was small, what do we do now? I looked at our parents, these strangers who'd orchestrated our entire lives like some twisted chess game, then at Emily, who'd lost everything only to discover she'd never really had it to begin with. My phone buzzed a third time. We do what Aunt Clara wanted, I said finally. We decide together, but this time we make our own moves. The USB drive felt heavy in my hand, carrying the weight of truths that could destroy what remained of our family, or finally set us free. The conference room at Matthew's restaurant group felt too small for the weight of what we were about to do. Emily sat beside me, her waitress uniform replaced by a borrowed business suit, while Greg Matthews studied the USB drive's contents displayed on the projection screen. This is more than embezzlement, Greg said, pausing on a particularly damning spreadsheet. Your father's firm was running a sophisticated fraud scheme for years, using both his daughters as unwitting accomplices, Emily added, her voice hollow. The perfect cover story. The door opened. Our parents walked in, followed by their lawyer. My father's confident stride faltered when he saw Emily sitting beside me. What is this about, Sarah? He tried to take control, as always. Your mother and I have a charity function. Sit down. My voice cut through his pretense. You're going to want to hear this. Greg clicked to the next slide. Our father's signature on documents linking his firm to Mark's Ponzi scheme. Evidence of shell companies set up in both Emily's and my names. Where did you get these? The lawyer leaned forward. Aunt Clara kept receipts. I met my father's eyes. All of them. This is absurd, he blustered. Emily, surely you don't believe... I testified against Mark, Emily interrupted. I can testify against you, too. Our mother's perfectly manicured hands trembled. We were protecting you both. By making me the fool guy? Emily's laugh was bitter. By pushing Sarah into the restaurant business so you'd have a legitimate front for laundering money? I placed 2 folders on the table. Option 1. We turn everything over to the FBI. You go to prison, the firm collapses, and the Thompson name becomes synonymous with fraud. Option 2. Our father's lawyer asked quickly. You sign these papers transferring control of the firm to Emily and me. You retire quietly, move to that beach house in Florida you bought with stolen money and never contact us again. You can't be serious. Our father stood. Everything I built was built on lies. I remained seated, calm. Everything you made us believe about ourselves, about each other, it was all part of your game. We're your parents, our mother pleaded. We love you. No, Emily's voice cracked. You loved what we could do for you. There's a difference. Greg cleared his throat. The FBI has been notified. They're waiting for our call. You have 10 minutes to decide. Our father reached for the folders, but I pulled them back. One more thing. The diner. Pete's. You're signing it over to the staff. They've earned it. The diner? He looked confused. What does that matter now? It matters because it's where this started. Where you thought I belonged. I smiled. Consider it karma. The minutes ticked by. Emily gripped my hand under the table as our parents whispered with their lawyer. Finally, our father picked up a pen. You'll regret this, he said, signing. Someday you'll understand. We already understand. Emily took the pen, adding her signature where needed. That's the problem. After they left, Greg studied the signed papers. You realize you've just become CEO of a major investment firm. Co-CEO, I corrected, looking at Emily. If you want it? She straightened her borrowed blazer. I did pass the bar exam even if I never practiced. Besides, someone needs to clean up their mess. And you? Greg asked me. Still interested in running my restaurant chain? I thought about the diner, about all the paths that had led us here. Actually, I have some ideas about expansion. Emily's firm could provide the capital. Legal capital, Emily added with a faint smile. We walked out together, leaving our parents' lawyer to pack up his briefcase. Outside, the sun was setting over the city skyline. Was this the revenge you wanted? Emily asked softly. No, I admitted. It's better. They wanted us to compete, to tear each other down. Instead we're building something new. She squared her shoulders. Together. I nodded, watching our parents' car disappear into traffic. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying what others built. It's about building something they never thought possible. The key to Aunt Clara's house felt heavier than usual as I unlocked the door one last time. The realtor's sign in the yard cast long shadows in the evening light. Inside, most of the furniture was gone, leaving only the essentials Emily and I had decided to keep. Her footsteps echoed behind me as we entered the study. Found something else in the safe, she said, holding up a DVD case. It's labelled, for Sarah and Emily, after. We sat on the floor using my laptop to play the disc. Aunt Clara's face filled the screen, recorded months before her death. My dear girls, she began, if you're watching this, you've discovered the truth about your parents. But there's one more thing you need to know. Emily gripped my arm as Aunt Clara continued. Your parents didn't just manipulate you. They manipulated me too. Made me think I was protecting you by keeping their secrets. It took me too long to realize that protection sometimes means letting the truth hurt. The camera shifted, showing documents, recordings, a lifetime of evidence gathered not just against our parents, but against an entire network of fraud. I'm not proud that I waited, Aunt Clara's voice continued, but I wanted you both strong enough to handle what came next. Sarah, your business acumen. Emily, your legal knowledge. Together, you're more powerful than they ever imagined. Emily paused the video. She planned this. All of it. No, I said, understanding finally. She gave us the tools to plan it ourselves. We watched the rest in silence. When it ended, I closed the laptop, looking around the study where everything had started. The diner staff signed the ownership papers today, Emily said. They're renaming it Clara's. I smiled, remembering our father's dismissal of my potential, his insistence that the diner was all I could hope for. Now it would stand as a monument to the aunt who'd seen what he couldn't. The FBI wants to interview Dad again, Emily continued. They found connections to 3 more investment firms. Let them. We have our own empire to build. She studied me. Do you ever wonder if we're just playing into their hands, becoming what they wanted us to be? No. I stood, running my fingers along Aunt Clara's empty desk. They wanted us to compete, to tear each other down. Instead, we're stronger together. Emily joined me at the desk. The board meeting's tomorrow. Ready to announce the merger. Matthews Thompson Holdings. I tested the words. Think Greg will mind being the junior partner? He's getting 3 new restaurant locations out of the deal. He'll survive. We gathered our things, preparing to leave Aunt Clara's house for the last time. At the door, Emily hesitated. "Sarah, that night you overheard Mom and Dad talking about the diner. Was that really when everything changed?" I thought about it, remembering the anger, the hurt, the years of feeling second best. No. Everything changed when I stopped letting their version of me define who I could become. "And who are you now?" The question hung in the air as I locked the door. Through the window I could see Aunt Clara's garden still blooming despite her absence. "I'm someone who knows the difference between revenge and justice," I said finally. "And more importantly, I'm someone who knows which one matters more." Emily nodded, understanding. We walked to our separate cars, headed to our separate homes, but connected now by something stronger than shared pain or shared triumph. I started my engine, watching Emily pull away first. Tomorrow we'd face the board, announce the merger, begin building something neither our parents nor Aunt Clara could have imagined. But tonight, in the quiet of Aunt Clara's empty house, I felt the last pieces of my old self, the angry, overlooked second daughter, finally fall away. The truth about revenge isn't that it heals you. It's that sometimes in pursuing it, you find something better. The power to rewrite your own story, on your own terms. I pulled away from the curb, leaving Aunt Clara's house and all its ghosts behind. Ahead lay the future we'd chosen, not the one chosen for us. And that, more than any revenge, was the sweetest victory of all.